I will call this meeting to order. Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today in council. This morning, our invocation will be given by Father Bruce Wilson with the Coastal Bend Neighborhood Empowerment. Father Bruce.
Great. Thank you. Good morning. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
Let us take a moment to stop and just be aware of God's presence within us and all around us, in every sight and smell and sound. Let us be aware of God's presence in this, around this city council table, in the diversity and in the unity of minds and hearts and the governance of this city. Let us be aware of God's presence in this city, in our homes, in our places of work, in our neighborhoods, in our institutions, under our bridges, and in our streets. Let us be aware of God's presence in the poor and neglected persons whom it would be easy for us to forget, sometimes even to criminalize, the homeless and the destitute, the old and the sick, and those who must depend on others for their daily bread. And let us pray for all who work with them, for the compassion to help with dignity those who cannot help themselves, and with wisdom to know how to empower those who can. May God grant this council this day wisdom and grace, enlightening, stirring, and strengthening them to be courageous leaders and compassionate servants, to speak out when it is time to speak and to listen patiently when it is time to listen, to be genuine in their pursuit of only what is good and right and true, and to promote the lives and the welfare of all our citizens. And may the measure of the greatness of our community be manifest in the way that we treat the least, the last, and the lost, even as we seek to serve the common good in all. In the name of all that is holy, amen.
Amen. Thank you, Father Bruce. And now our Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States and to the Texas flag will be led by Rupa Bingding Naval, and she is a student at Ray High School. Rupa, thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And please join me in honoring the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one indivisible.
Thank you so much, Rupa. Thanks for being here. Ms. Huerta, would you please call roll?
Mayor Paulette Guajardo.
Present.
Council members Roland Barrera.
Here.
Gil Hernandez.
Here.
Michael Hunter.
Here.
Did you say here? Okay.
Yes, he did.
He is, okay. Billy Lerma.
Here.
John Martinez.
Here.
Ben Molina.
Present.
Mike Pesley. Greg Smith. He'll be here shortly, at about noon, he said. City Manager Peter Zanoni.
Present.
City Attorney Miles Risley.
Here.
Mayor and Council, a quorum of the council and the required charter officers are present to conduct the meeting. No, I haven't. Mm-mm.
Okay. Good morning. Oh, that's loud. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Third time's a charm. Thank you all for joining us today. We have a very, very special special commendation. I always love to see our young leaders and our young students and children be leaders, right? Live by example. And I love, love, love recognizing them here in council, as do our councilmen, because they are the future. And so today we have two stars here with us, Kylie and Kendall Russell. And I will just tell you that story in this commendation. They are with Coastal Bend Hearts, taken by COVID. So two Corpus Christi sisters are making a difference in this community and in this world. Coastal Bend Hearts, taken by COVID, is helping families heal from loss. Coastal Bend Hearts is the work of Kylie and Kendall Russell. These young leaders created a Facebook page that posts tributes to community members who have passed away from COVID-19. After the loss of their grandfather, Rodolfo E. Ramos Sr., they were inspired to provide an outlet for not only their grief, but for the grief that many families are experiencing and mutually sharing as a result of this pandemic. So through their remembrance efforts, they commemorate the lives of those lost and also advocate for life-saving vaccines. The City of Corpus Christi wishes to acknowledge and commend Kylie and Kendall for their compassion in helping others through grief and for contributing to their community in a very positive way. So we thank you for your outstanding efforts today, both of you.
Hi, I'm Kendall, and I started this Facebook page because my grandpa, he passed away due to COVID on December 25th, also his birthday. I wanted to start this because of my grandpa. He passed away due to COVID, and I didn't want him to be forgotten. Neither did others. So I started a Facebook page, and people can message me through private message me through Facebook, and they send me their information, their hobbies, and their picture. And I post it on Facebook. So that's a way that I started the Facebook page.
Hi, I'm Kylie, and I would like to say that what she has started is pretty awesome because, going through this is it's a pretty tough thing, and it's very heartbreaking to see all these numbers and everything go up, because at first all you see online is just numbers go up every day, and nobody realizes how hard it is until it actually happens in person. And at school, all I heard were just, it's a rumor and it's not true, and nobody believed it. Even though they had the mask and the dividers and all that stuff up, everybody still thought that it was a rumor, until it started to get worse and people saying that people's lives are being taken by this. And it's just, ever since he has passed away, it's been really hard. I never even noticed how hard it was that people are passing away due to this until it actually happened. It's the most heartbreaking thing ever. So I would like to thank you for...
Great job, young lady.
So proud of you. Keep those memories going.
Okay, yeah. Thank you so much. You're welcome, girls. Okay. I think it's forensic. The forensic. May bit. Come on in. I don't want to whisper. This is the team.
This is part of our team.
I love it. I'm so proud of y'all. I got some info today, this morning. Gee, how does it work? We're proud. Yeah, very proud. Y'all come in, just slide in. Okay. Okay, keep it coming, yeah. Great, welcome. So this is our Corpus Christi forensic team. Is there a part of it? Okay. The forensics, what's the name of the team?
We're the Forensic Services Division of the Police Department.
Forensic Services Division, which we couldn't be without. I mean, truly, right? In a police department, this is a critical piece. So I'd like to read this proclamation, which will explain a little bit more. Whereas forensic science is a vital public service, access to quality forensic analysis dramatically improves the investigation of criminal activity, leading to the exoneration of the innocent and the prosecution of the guilty. And whereas forensic science plays a critical role in public outreach and crime prevention and is evolving in its role as an important member of the criminal justice community. Crime scene investigators, forensic examiners, and forensic scientists provide unbiased, accurate, and reliable analysis of evidence recovered from across the nation. And whereas the hardworking people that compose our forensic science organizations deserve universal regard and appreciation for their commitment to proper scientific investigations for the cause of justice. So now, therefore, pursuant to the powers vested in me as mayor of the city of Corpus Christi, I do hereby proclaim September 19th through the 25th, 2021, National Forensic Science Week in Corpus Christi, Texas, and encourage all citizens to recognize and commend the professionals who compose our forensic science organizations and work tirelessly to assist the criminal justice community. Thank you all. Thank you so much for what you do. I mean, it's critical, it's vital, and you guys work on the forefront. You're in the background making sure that our justice system is working. Without you, I mean, it's not even possible. So I'm on behalf of the city of Corpus Christi, on behalf of this council, I thank you very, very much for all the work that you do. Bob May, you are the supervisor of the team. My understanding is that the team is composed of about 20 people, roughly, in different little sectors, if you will: crime scene, firearms examiners, and patent print? Latent print. I did a little research this morning while you were in a meeting. But I'm going to let you go and give us a little bit more info about this critical team.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, council members. Thank you for having us here today. We really appreciate this recognition, and I'm thrilled to accept it on behalf of my staff who work really tirelessly to support our officers out on the street, to provide scientific support and that forensic evidence that you might see on CSI Miami. We have it here in CSI Corpus Christi. Technology obviously is a big part of it, the scientific process, of course, but really none of that gets done without just good old-fashioned hard work. And these are some of the hardest working folks that you're going to see here. They are tireless in their dedication. They don't go home till the job gets done. And they do it under some exceptionally challenging circumstances. They see some pretty awful things at times, and they just get the job done. And I couldn't be more proud of them and appreciative of their efforts. And I'm glad that we have them in support of our police department. Thank you.
You're welcome, as we are. And we'll do this really quickly, but if you'll just give your name and your position.
My name is Judy Perez. I'm with the Forensics Senior Staff Assistant. 7 years now, and I'm proud of it.
As you should be.
Carolyn Martinez, firearm examiner, 19 years.
Karen Selvage, Senior Staff Assistant, 20 years.
Hi, I'm Sarah Barrera. I'm the Quality Assurance Manager and the Crime Scene Supervisor, 7 years.
Todd Green, Assistant Chief over the Investigations Bureau, which includes forensics.
CSI Catherine Pina, in 12 years with the city, 9 with forensics.
CSI DJ Rivera, I have 31 years with the department.
CSI Alexis Tuttle, I have 1.5 years with the department.
David Curvis, I'm one of the firearm examiners. I have 16 years with the department.
And y'all are wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Mayor, for recognizing us.
Absolutely. Let's take a picture. We'll just here in the middle and set this down.
Great job. Much for everything you do for us. Good job for the city. Thank you so much. Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Thank you so much. Thank you for your service.
Oh. Thank you. My bad. God bless you. One. You're going to be like up here going. I'll be here, but thank you for all you do. I appreciate that. Where's the, yeah. Okay, then we got fire. Love it.
People that you love are coming up here, aren't they? Police and fire.
I know, right? I know.
There you go.
Hey, but this is it. Love it. Welcome, welcome. I'm going to stay here and keep it. Welcome, firefighters. Thank y'all for being here. This is a very, very important proclamation. This is about National Fire Prevention Week, which is extremely critical. Everything today has been, I mean, it usually is, but everything has been extremely critical. So I know you guys represent a very small piece of the pie because we have such a huge team that does everything to protect our residents and community. So with that, I'll read our proclamation here. Whereas the City of Corpus Christi is committed to ensuring the safety and security of those living in and visiting Corpus Christi, fire is a serious public safety concern, both locally and nationally. Homes are the locations where people are at greatest risk from fire. Whereas home fires killed more than 2,770 people in the United States in 2019, according to the National Fire Protection Association, or the NFPA, and fire departments in the United States responded to 339,500 home fires. And whereas smoke alarms sense smoke well before you can, alerting you to the danger in the event of fire, in which you may have as little as 2 minutes to escape safely. Working smoke alarms cut the risk of dying in reported home fires in half. And whereas Corpus Christi residents should be sure everyone in the home understands the sounds of the alarms and know how to respond. Residents who have planned and practiced a home fire escape plan are more prepared and will therefore be more likely to survive a fire. Residents will make sure their smoke and CO alarms meet the needs of all their family members, including those with sensory or physical disabilities. First responders are dedicated to reducing the occurrence of home fires and home fire injuries through prevention and protection education. Corpus Christi residents are responsive to public education measures and can take personal steps to increase their safety from fire, especially in their homes. So whereas the 2021 Fire Prevention Week theme, Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety, effectively serves to remind us It is important to learn the different sounds of smoke and carbon monoxide alarms. Now, therefore, pursuant to the powers vested in me, as mayor of the city of Corpus Christi, I do hereby proclaim October the 3rd through October the 9th of 2021 National Fire Prevention Week in Corpus Christi, Texas, and urge all the people of Corpus Christi to learn the sounds of fire safety for Fire Prevention Week 2021, and to support the many public safety activities and efforts of Corpus Christi Fire and Emergency Services. So thank you all for what you do, because I don't think there's one word that would describe what you do and what you're faced with. The only thing is you don't know when you would be faced with is being brave to have to go into a structure, whether it be a home or a building, in case of a fire, right, and save a life. So we can't thank you. We hold a great indebtedness to you for what you do day in, day out, and you're ready to go at any given moment. We're so proud. And as mayor of Corpus Christi, and of course as a council, we love you guys. You are our front line. We depend on you. And there's just not enough words to thank you for what you do to protect us, our children, our parents, and our neighbors, everyone. So thank you very, very much. We're proud to do this for you today.
Thank you, Mayor. As the mayor said, this year's theme is Learn the Sounds of Fire Safety. And we all know that smoke detectors save lives, and learning those sounds can save lives. We all know the sound that goes off only between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., that chirp that tells you your battery's dying. But there's some other sounds too. But my lesson here is, if you don't want it to chirp between 2 a.m. and 4 a.m., is change your batteries every 6 months. That won't happen. The other real important on this is a lot of, nowadays you see two types of detectors in your house. One's a smoke detector and one's a carbon monoxide detector, and that's what they're talking about in this. And you need to know the different sounds, because the alarm is going to sound differently if it picks up smoke or if it picks up carbon monoxide. And if it picks up carbon monoxide and you look around and you don't see any smoke and you think, oh, it's just a nuisance and it won't go off, and you pull the battery and you go back to bed, you may not wake up because it was carbon monoxide. So just real quickly, 3 beeps in a matter of 2 seconds is smoke. 4 beeps in a matter of 5 seconds, over a 5-second period, is carbon monoxide. So just make sure you learn those sounds. Thank you, Mayor. Yes.
Okay.
If you have a carbon monoxide and, well, if there's, you can have a carbon monoxide and smoke detector combination, or they can be separate, but the sounds are the same.
Okay. Okay. Thank you for that.
Yes,
Ronald Gonzalez, arson investigator, 22 years.
Garrett Holder, I've been with the department for 8 years.
Jose Gonzalez, November will be 16.
Eric Boz, I've been with the department for 5 years.
Patrick Brennan, fire captain, 32 years.
Captain Lewis, fire prevention, 37 years.
Ed Doberly, fire protection engineer, 1 year and 2 months.
Mayor, thanks a lot, and council to you also. Thank you very much for the support that you give the fire department, and without that support, we couldn't do the job that we do. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Let's take a picture.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for the good job. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for everything.
So we will go ahead and move on to public comment. Now that it's noon, a couple minutes past. Let's see here. I'll ask City Attorney Miles Risley to review the council meeting rules of decorum. The rules will also be visible on the screens in the chamber and for the television audience. Mr. Risley.
The rules of decorum governing citizen communication, they shall be limited to city-related matters and shall be a factual, precise presentation. There will be no loud noises, shouting, demonstrating, applause, booing, hissing, stomping, parading, singing, or other disruptive, inappropriate behavior. No signs or posters impairing the view of audience members. No questions of council or staff. No loud, boisterous, profane, or obscene language or behavior. Time limitations of mayor or council shall be strictly enforced. Council members and the mayor shall be referred to by the title or title with surname, and all remarks shall be addressed to the mayor and city council and not to the council members as individuals.
Thank you, Mr. Risley. So I will be calling people up in order in which you signed up on the public comment sheet. And I'd like to remind everyone that a recording is being made of the meeting. Please speak into the microphone located at the podium and state your name and address prior to beginning your comments. If you choose to speak during this public comment period regarding an agenda item, you may do so. But once that agenda item is brought up during the meeting, you will not be allowed to speak on it again. So you'd have to decide where you'd like to speak, up front here or during the meeting when we get to the item. Citizen comments are limited to 3 minutes. I'd like to remind everyone of that. On the podium, you will see a timer underneath the base of the microphone. It will let you know exactly how much time you have left to speak. So once your time is up, you will hear a buzzer go off, at which time we would appreciate you respect your time limit. And if you have a petition or any information pertaining to your subject matter, please present it to the city secretary, who is here, Rebecca Huerta, before speaking. So we will start with Margareta Fratilla.
Yes, ma'am. She's a call-in. We have a couple call-ins and then the in-person, so.
Yes, okay. Thank you.
Ms. Fertilla?
Yes, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Can you please state your name and address and then make your comment?
Margaret Fratilla, 3606 Tripoli Drive, Corpus Christi, Texas, 78415. And let me know when I can start.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Okay. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and congratulations. I have the chance to congratulate each and every one of you and Ms. Mayor. And I'm sorry I cannot be there, but it's a very important issue that I want to bring it to you. For many years, we're complaining about how much money the city attorney spending out of town attorneys to be hired. We have 16 attorneys in our city attorney's office. And also, we look into the expenses that they were done for years, like millions of dollars. Last year was like $595,000 in expenses for attorney brought out of town. The reason what I'm bringing this because I'm very close to a situation that I really need your help. Years ago, in 1999, family bought the property in 1006 3rd Street. That property was a landmark and belonged to Judge Berenholt. And when they moved there, when the hurricane was, in Ocean Club was really flooded. This house was not only the landmark, but also was the Rocker and Rocker, very famous, interior designers. They were there and having this property. What was wrong with this property was that the city, the way how they had a sewer there. That's why the city is sued for, because it was an inverse condemnation. And if I want to tell you what is that, is taking the property for you, like a city to get from this family, without paying to the owner. A building next door to this property was the 8 foundation. 1006 3rd Street. What happened also, that whole line of sewage that was coming from Elizabeth Street going to Beaufort was coming this basement. In 2000, when they find out what's going on, they were paying the taxes from 1992 to 2000 to the city, and they told them all the time, you had arrangement to come every 2 weeks and clean the main hall. The thing is that the main hall, one of the main hall was in a garage apartment downstairs, and this garage apartment was used for the office. And one day when it was very cold outside, they had 4 dogs. They put the dogs there, the dog died. And they find out that the sewer was such a toxic that these dogs died, 4 big dens. Now, the people complaining all the time, and in 2000, after 8 years paying the taxes, they complained and they said, we cannot pay the taxes anymore. So they didn't pay the taxes anymore, and the city is countersuing them because what happened wrongfully, they moved the property from there.
Mayor?
Without the knowledge.
Do you want her to
They
continue?
moved
Or?
all-
Okay. Ms. Pratila? I'm sorry. Your time is up.
My name is Jim Klein. I live at 3501 Monterey Street here in Corpus Christi. I'm speaking today not only as a resident, but also as the former chair of the City Landmark Commission and as the current vice chair of the Nueces County Historical Commission. My comments regarding the city preservation plan, I believe was scheduled to be placed on the agenda for today, but was pulled. And I just want to reiterate the need. I think the importance of the city adopting and continuing the preservation plan. So I hope that this council and staff will put it on a future agenda so that it can be adopted and continue forward. I think it has been approved by the Landmark Commission and by the Planning Commission both. And so I'm very much in favor of the preservation plan. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Klein. Mayor, that concludes the callbacks. So now we're in person.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. So the first person would be Samuel Andra Fryer.
I have a slide deck. This is already counting down.
I'm sorry?
It's already counting down.
Oh, yeah, let's go ahead and hold the clock. Yeah, let's reset that. Okay. Oh,
22, Samuel Andre Fryer, 2222 Cardinales Lane. Mayor Guajardo, councilmen, ladies and gentlemen. Last week, my family and I and another citizen gave personal testimonies of how God's intervention allowed us to use early treatment protocols against COVID-19 that work. The Caller Times, we also asked that you would look into actually providing the information to the public so they would be informed. The Caller Times sent an article on the headlines on Thursday the 9th that basically said, it's called that we promoted unfounded COVID-19 treatments, false and misleading claims, false statements, and spreading misinformation. Today I'm going to give you some facts. There's a little busy slide, so I'm going to break it down. Next slide. Next slide. Next slide. Okay. All right, next. Okay, as you can see, the analysis there, it says that there are early treatments, analysis of early treatment protocols. This comes from C19early.com. You can also see that denying any of these efficacies methods increase the risk of COVID-19 becoming endemic, increase mortality, morbidity, and collateral damage. Next. Okay, you can see on the left side, you can see the actual protocols of medicines that are part of those protocols. You see the various doctors that support these protocols. Vladimir Zelenko, for example, had 6,000 from New York State, 6,000 people used the protocol he had. Only 24 were hospitalized, and of those, only 12 died. And you can see other information there. Next. Okay, if you look in the middle of that, you can see where it has the actual medicines that were used. It has it by country, and you can see the countries that use them based on the number of personnel that actually that are treated. And you can see budesonide, and you can see the other information there as far as the improvement of it. Next. Okay, you can click on it, and you can actually see peer review and find all the statistics information from there. Next. Hydroxychloroquine, for example, you can see the information there. Over 283 trials, 4,500 so scientists, over 407,000 patients that were treated with ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine. Next. And you can see there, 253 peer-reviewed, and as you can see, the evidence there. Next. Ivermectin is the same, 63 trials, 623 scientists, over 26,000 patients. Next. And of course, the peer review. Next. So what are we asking? First of all, it is time to speak out, and there is no need for any more to grieve on anyone who dies from COVID-19. So we're asking you to get with the public, inform the public, so that we can move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Fryer. Next would be Mr. Bob Paulson.
Good afternoon, Mayor, City Council, Mr. City Manager. My name is Bob Paulison. I am a Corpus Christi resident. I live at 15821 Almeria Avenue, Corpus Christi, Texas 78418. I am the Executive Director of Port Industries of Corpus Christi, although I'm here today in a personal capacity. The remarks I'm making are mine alone. I want to thank you for the vote you took last week on the budget, in particular the vote to continue to move forward on development of the Corpus Christi desalinization project. The path that you're on, to me, represents the best balance of the important factors in this decision: safety, water supply, security, reliability, our diversified economy, and the ecology. And it makes the most sense as the next increment of water brought into the system. The city's done a great job over the decades in securing the water supply for our region. This time, driven by the impact of the last drought, is no different. As you work to bring a drought-proof component into the regional supply. Since early 2015, councils past and present, staff past and present, and the Friesen Nichols team have worked diligently from feasibility assessment to alternatives analysis to developing project options. Through that entire time, I personally have seen nothing but professionalism, care, prudence, responsibility, and a commitment to complete the substantial due diligence required in a decision of this magnitude. I certainly expect all of that to continue as we move forward in the development of this project. Again, I want to thank you for the vote you took last week, for your commitment to the water supply of our region, understanding its importance, and I encourage all citizens to take advantage of the website desal.cctexas.com, as well as the internet, to go and look at presentations, reports, documents, and other research that pertains to this project and our overall water supply. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Paulson. Randall Moore. You can, either one. And the consent agenda would come, I mean, it'll be in a little. Okay. That's fine. Then we can wait on that one, sir. Yes, sir. Okay. Ms. Whitfield, that would be everything?
That concludes it.
Okay. Great. Then we will go ahead and move on. Let's see to Ida. Oh, you have. Okay. Go ahead.
Good morning, council members, Honorable Mayor Guajardo, City Manager Zanoni. How are you doing? I'm blessed to be here. Rolando Garza. I'm a resident of Calala in District 1, and Billy Lerm is my councilman, and the 3 at large, and the mayor, of course. It's been some time. I'm blessed to be here. Some of you may have heard of my circumstances, where I had to have some major surgery. But before I go there, I want to thank our Corpus Christi Police Department, of course, and our fire, EMS, and safety, and our nurses and staff, those doctors that make our community safe, and their sacrifices that they make. So to our Chief of Police and Fire Chief, great job, excellent job protecting our community. Thank you so much. been some time since I've been up before you. Reason why I'm here today is I noticed that the city bakery is getting a historical marker, and I'm excited about that, which makes me think more of la cultura de nuestra gente, de los mexicanos y de los chicanos y los indios, our native ancestors, our Mexican Americans, and our Chicanos, because we're not Hispanic, we're Chicanos. That's what we are, we're Mexican American. And when it first got started 35 years ago, and they called us alarmists, we called ourselves activists, or just wanted to help. I thought that projects that should address the impoverished areas, blighted areas of Corpus Christi still need addressing. I'm glad to see that this council is really gelled well together. I see solution. I'm looking at solution-solving people right here. And this is very rare for me to come up here and say that to you, because most of the time it's divided 5-4, and there was one side against the other side. It was more of a battle. And I see more inclusiveness and more togetherness, more unity here. And that makes me excited, you know, that some of the things that fell off the radar map for the impoverished area, blighted areas, the poor area, the working class, and the working poor, that those areas, we cannot continue to neglect those areas. It's just my understanding, I just got a tip that there is such a plan to address those areas, but I think that also just in sharing with you, because I'm not here to address you, I'm here to share with you, that when you think outside the box, make sure that people like us that know the streets, that grew up in these shoes and these poor shoes, that are in the box working with you. And when you use your think tank and those people don't come from our shoes, that doesn't help out either. I think it'd be more a more inclusive ideas coming straight from the people who live in those neighborhoods that could help you along better. And as I close, Magic 104.9 is going online with social media, internet, wherever you can catch us. My show's on Wednesday, Thursdays, and Fridays. Everybody here has an opportunity to speak to 70% of the Latino, Chicano, Mexicano community. I urge you to take that opportunity to call me and make an effort to come on. If we don't know and you're not sharing, then they don't know. And I'm here to help you share that message, all right? Thank you so much. God bless you.
Sir, can you state your address for the record?
2715 McLean.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. God bless.
Thank you very much. Okay, so we are going to, item G is, that is happening actually in October. So we don't have that briefing today on the Naval Air Station, so that'll move us right over. And Mr. Moore, your item number is 10. That's your item number. We'll move over to city manager's comments and update on city operations. Mr. Zanoni.
Great, thank you, Mayor. And Mayor and members of the council, we have 3 items this morning. I'm going to recap the budget that City Council passed last week. We had a real busy meeting last week, and there was some significant items. I just want to remind the council and the community about the budget that was approved by the council last week. We have 2 new executives that we're going to spend a few minutes introducing to you this afternoon. And then Brett Otting is here, our CVB CEO, and he's going to do a recap of the summer activities that we saw here in Corpus Christi. And we did have a decel item posted, but the update is pretty consistent with last week, so Mike Murphy won't be doing an update today. We do have an item on next week's agenda where we'll be bringing forward the remaining questions that the council had that we have not answered to date. So that'll be next week at council meeting. So let's begin by talking about the budget. So last week, the mayor and council adopted a historic $1.2 billion budget for the fiscal year 22 that begins October 1. It reflects the city's continued commitment to providing quality services, infrastructure, and enhanced quality of life for our residents. The newly adopted budget, as I mentioned, begins October 1. The budget provided or will provide substantial investment in street reconstruction and maintenance. This is the City Council's top priority that you all have told me about, and I hear it from the community as well. We have close to 60% more funding in streets for the next fiscal year beginning October 1 than what's in the current year budget. So almost 60% more funding in streets. There's a substantial investment in public safety. Our 2 public safety professional leaders are here. more funding for parks, and more funding for neighborhood services in our community. We continue to do that, and at the same time maintain strong financial reserves in our general fund and other operating funds, consistent with City Council approved financial policies. Our credit rating, as we talked to you about, was reaffirmed in July. All three rating agencies have our credit rating as a high grade category rating. The adoption of the budget came with some significant milestones, and I want to just highlight those for you and the community. One milestone is that for the third year in a row, our budget is in excess of $1 billion. This year's budget was the highest of 1.2. Another milestone is the Stormwater Fee. So for 3 decades, and this is a fact, for 3 decades, the city and prior city councils have attempted to establish implementing a standalone stormwater fee without success, as we know, until last week. The program that was designed and recommended by city staff and that the mayor and city council approved last week makes us the last Texas city to do so. So we are out of that list of being a major Texas city that does not have a standalone fee. And so, Mayor, with you and with this city council, we finally have reversed a legacy issue in our community. It's taken us 3 decades to get there, but we're there now. And it makes us a top-tier city in terms of managing our stormwater program. As we mentioned and consistently have, the residents and commercial accounts were paying a stormwater fee. It wasn't transparent, it wasn't fair, and it wasn't appropriately set up to have a strong program. Yesterday we embraced the community with the thought that there'd be some substantial flooding again. And so having that stormwater fee and a strong program will minimize those types of flooding events as we move forward. Another milestone is that this budget puts a financial plan together to adjust development services fees. Similarly, it's been 2 to 3 decades before some of those fees were last adjusted. Working with the development community, there's a plan in place to gradually adjust these fees over a 4-year time period. And we want to thank the development community and Al Raymond and the mayor and council for taking that first step in adopting some of the fees that'll take place next year. So some of the other budget's highlights include $122 million in street maintenance. So that's 60% more than the current year. When you look at the past 3 years that this council has approved, over $328 million in street maintenance, and we can see it out there. I know several council members have told me, we hear comments about, I need my street fixed, but then we hear people say there's too much construction going on. So we need to keep that pace up to catch up, and $328 million over the past 3 years is commendable. $2 million is in the budget for a third in-house street rehabilitation paving crew. That's a 12-member crew. That's the third one for the city. So by self-performing, we can do more work for the dollar. We do need the private sector. We can't do the work alone when it comes to street maintenance or reconstruction. So we thank and we work closely with our private sectors, but having that third crew now, beginning this October, will help us do more streets and have more value for the community. We put in a program for safe routes to school. I know Councilman Lerma talked about that with me quite a bit. $750,000 is in there to help identify sidewalk and other infrastructure improvements at designated schools, so our children that walk to school will be safer. Funding for 10 new police officers is in the budget, and Chief Markles, I know, advocated for that, as well as the mayor. 5 more than planned, so the plan was to have 5 additional. We were on a 5-by-5 plan, meaning 5 officers for the next 5 years. This is our year 3 of that, so instead of having 25 in 5 years, we'll have 30 in 5 years. Significant equipment upgrades, and I know the mayor spoke about this at one of our budget workshops, but significant upgrades for police and fire. In police, it's in-car mobile data computers. Those computers they use, all those will be replaced. A new computer-aided dispatch system and records management system. And then police mark crime and vehicles as well. And then a crime scene mapping drone as well is in the budget. In our fire area, funding for 8 new firefighter positions to create a 13th medic unit. So today we have 12 medic units, unless we're running some on extra board. This these 8 new firefighters help us create a new medic unit. It'll be placed at Station 17 and City Council District 5 on Yorktown. Equipment upgrades also in our fire area, 3 brand-new ambulance medic units, 1 brand-new fire pumper truck, a potable water tanker truck. And this is a first for the city. When we had that extreme weather event earlier this year, we have all the water in the region, but we didn't have a truck to transport it. And so we said we need to start buying some of those. So this is one. We're going to try to buy one for several years in a row. That's in the fire's budget for this year. And a hazmat medical response unit replacing one that's nearly 20 years old. That's a significant investment. The new fire station, number 3 on Morgan Avenue, is fully funded with this budget. Not only is the design funded as part of the bond program, but the construction is funded as well. $2.9 million is budgeted for numerous one-time capital improvements in our parks area, shifting to parks. We have 2 new dog parks, one in West Guth Park in City Council District 1 and one in Sherwood Park in City Council District 2. We know Cole Park is a signature park in our community. The new pier is going to only enhance that park, but in this budget, we added a splash pad for Cole Park. So there's going to be a lot to do at Cole Park, a splash pad, there's a skateboard park, there's picnic areas, brand new pier, and we have nice green grass as well. 6 master plans are in this budget. So while we're buying, we're hiring folks, we also have to plan ahead appropriately. So 6 new master plans funded in the budget. 1 for the marina. We know another signature project of the mayor. 1 for Labonte Park. Councilman Lermer and I and Pusley have talked about that. That's a beautiful park, but it needs some programming, some planning. 1 at the animal care facility to get it site ready, to make it more friendly for adoptions. In our next bond program, we can do some minor adjustments there. A master plan to look at Central Library, La Retama, and see how we can improve that outside. I know Councilman Pusley talked about it, and I see it. I drive by every day. So monies to help study how can we improve that outside and then begin to actually do some of the work. Funding for the Art Center downtown, that's a city facility. We have a 20-year agreement with the nonprofit that manages it, but there's plans to do a fundraising effort through them and improve that footprint, add some additional square footage, and so there's a master plan funded for that location as well. And then finally, a master plan for the Cheryl Veterans Memorial Park. Again, Councilman Lerma has talked to me, as has others. We're going to look at and begin to design monuments to highlight the 5 military branches. It'll be right there at that park. Councilman Hernandez has talked to us at length about improving our swimming lessons across the community. We may have a goal one day to have every child that wants to learn how to swim have that opportunity. And so to start there, we're adding 8 additional swim instructors to expand the summer swim instruction program coming up. We put more monies, and City Council approved it, for additional trees. This will be the second year in 3 where we have over $200,000 to add 230 additional trees throughout our community in our parks. We have an investment of $2.3 million for the city-owned Lozano Golf Course. In fact, on today's agenda item, and our private sector operators here with us, we have funds to do a significant capital investment, and this will be more than a decade since the City Council has invested in our own 2 golf courses. So the $2.3 million will be used to create a brand new 9-hole executive golf course right there on Lozano. The space is there, and something of a course is there, but it needs a lot of improvement. So these funds will help do that. Downtown and the marina are significant to this entire council. The budget includes $3 million to reconstruct the People's Boardwalk that was destroyed last summer by Hurricane Hannah. Funding was allocated to help fulfill the total project cost to replace 1/3 of all the slips and piers at the marina. Dredging dollars were included as part of this budget for a total of $20 for that project. There's upgrades to the seawall and Mirador lighting, $1 million project to improve lighting that whole length of the seawall, not just at the Miradors, but along the whole way, and to include the Miradors. And we will be talking to Bill Durrell. In fact, I'll be speaking with him tomorrow. We have an appointment to give him an update to make sure he's aware, because we know that they, through their philanthropy, put those 8 Miradors in for us, as well as the Salina Mirador. And then we have facility improvements also on the Bayfront at the Arts Center and the Art Museum, totaling $3.5 million. Those are city facilities, and by contract, we need to do major facility improvements, and so money is in the budget to do that. We know that neighborhoods matter to this entire council, and improving service levels there is in this budget as well. We have 2 additional live release coordinators and 1 additional veterinarian to help our pet population. We have 4 full-time animal care technicians in the budget. We have 5 additional code enforcement officers, bringing that total to 28. We've added code officers over the past 3 budgets, and we know that later this week, the Municipal Courts Committee will be meeting to talk about the backlog of those code compliance cases, because as we've talked about through the budget development, it does us no good to add more writers if we're not processing the tickets through the court system. So we're going to have a conversation and help the council members that are on that committee to get that backlog eliminated. And then we also have 2 new positions to create for the first time in the city, a litter crew. And this 2-person litter crew will go across the city in some of our major corridors and pick up trash and debris that is left behind by either pedestrians or vehicular traffic. This budget is also monumental in that there's no property tax rate increase. So the City Council kept the property tax rate increase that was in effect today. No solid waste rate increase, no gas rate increase, a small wastewater increase. So for the average residential customer, $2, less than $2 a month increase for wastewater. And then we know that the water rates for the average customer dropped, so that the stormwater fee taking out and standing alone negated the decrease. So it was about a zero-sum game for most customers. And then for those that are eligible, they can also apply for a utility assistance program for the water and stormwater program. So community engagement is important to the City Council. I hear it from the council constantly. We need to engage that community. It's part of our professional team's mantra as well. And transparency matters. And as part of the budget, the City Council members, the mayor, and city staff hosted community meetings in each of the 5 City Council districts for the 3rd straight year in a row. Resident input mattered. It still mattered in this budget. It mattered in the other 2. We made adjustments in the prior 2 budgets, and in this one, the overwhelming request was for even more street funding. And so we had about $812,000 additional property tax revenue that was realized from our proposed budget to the final budget. And I recommended, and the City Council approved, that all that $812,000 going for more residential street reconstruction. So that is a good addition to the street budget, and also shows that we're listening to the community. And so it's important to participate in those community meetings because the majority of the the majority of the input is adjustments that we make in the budget, and we did in this one with more street funding. And then to wrap up on the budget was prepared to balance the City Council and the community policy and priorities with available resources. It addresses many of the issues the community speaks about. It reflects our commitment to improving the quality of life for all Corpus Christi residents, and we maintain strong financial reserves in addition to investing in the community. And my final comment here is just that of the 3 budgets I've worked with, worked on and worked with City Council and the community on, I like this one the best. I think it really does a significant investment in all aspects of our top priority areas, our streets, our public safety, our parks, and our community investments, and we stay financially strong as well. So just to highlight that, City Council approved it last week or adopted it, and I know the City Council, unlike the prior 2, actually spent more time asking questions. We added 2 additional workshops. So just to reflect this and let the community know that this council is very interested in what's in that budget and how it impacts the community. And our workshops were long, and we actually added 2 more to make sure the council had all the information they needed.
Mm-hmm.
So good. Unless there's any questions on that, I'm going to move into the second item.
Okay, I think we may have a couple
Okay, great.
comments.
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Molina.
Thank you, Mayor. Peter, great job on that budget. Really want to congratulate you and your staff for putting that together and for the community engagement aspect. And touching on that, we have a significant investment going back into Cole Park with the splash pad. And I want to take this moment to thank the mayor and my colleagues for supporting that issue, along with the dog park in Sherwood Park. Peter, in our one-on-one meeting last week, we talked about Cole Park, and with that being a District 2 park, it is important to me. And with the significant investment that we are making into Cole Park, I really think that we need to have some sort of master plan for what we want that park to look like. And my vision for it is something similar to what Houston has in Discovery Green, that has attractions and amenities for residents and visitors. And I think that future investment in Cole Park would allow us to have that sort of attraction and amenities for the public that would be a draw for our visitors. Just one more thing for them to do while they're here in town, and also something for our city to take advantage of. So I just want to put that on your radar also.
Okay.
Thank you.
Great, and thanks,
Thank you,
Councilman. Yeah, I was just going to say, we did have that conversation last week, and we're already looking at some potential firms that we could look at.
So that one's not included in that with
It's
health?
not, but the park's pretty much built out, so it's really, as the councilman and I talked about last week, it won't be as elaborate of a master plan as, say, Bill Witt, that has, a lot of space and not much amenity. So it's really about how do we finish out the rest of the park with some of these
Right.
amenities? Where do we put the splash pad? Where do we put more pavilions?
Or what do we put, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
So it'll be a
Wonderful.
modified one. It won't be as an expensive one. I think we can
Right.
find the resources in the parks budget to do something like that. We
Thank
need to do it, so we make sure we know where to put that
Right.
splash pad, so, yeah.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Hernandez?
Thank you, Peter. And on the budget, I appreciate separating the capital improvement plan budget from the operating budget. I actually got to vote positive or affirmative on the operating budget, so I appreciate that. Thank you. I want to ask a few questions, specifically on the community engagement. We obviously had to do a remote one this year. I think for future years, we should look at for venues that would allow for social distancing, specifically since we don't know where we're going to be. There could be another variant down the road with the coronavirus. So, we got a lot of flack for not having that community engagement, direct community engagement. So that would be something to plan for. Also, can you give us an estimation on when you're going to be able to get us a certificate of obligation policy for us to review, since it was a point of contention?
Yeah, Councilman, we plan on bringing that to the council when we bring the cleanup from the closed capital projects and prior bond programs. So simultaneously, we'll bring both to the council probably later this fall, November timeframe, November, December.
Okay.
We're going to bring all those balances and make a recommendation and see how council would like to allocate them, should there be a substantial enough allocation amount, and we'll bring it at that time.
Okay, and hopefully we'll get at least half the investment that was done in Cole Park into Bill Witt.
Yes.
Since, and I'm counting that pier as well, which was what, $10 million?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe if we get half of that over at Bill Witt, I'd be happy. Also, for Safe Route to Schools, you mentioned Safe Route to Schools, and I know we've talked a lot about it, but it's mainly in discussion for public schools. Does it also include private schools, charter schools, or any other, where you have children walking to school?
Yeah, the answer is yes, it will. And so this year, that $750,000, there's already a plan on the worst schools, the worst routes to particular schools, and over time, we'll be able to address other schools to include the one you mentioned. So it's going to take us several years of funding. I don't have the exact number of years, but we do have identified schools in, I think, 3 of the areas of town. And the policy will include those as well. It doesn't matter what type of a school. It's
Okay.
how unsafe is the route, and it's prioritized in that category, that area.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you very much.
And on that note, Peter, so we're also going to look at, the process at the onset of a school being built.
Yeah, exactly.
Correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're more closely paying attention to the
Existing.
even the design phase of it.
Oh,
just-
right,
yes,
exactly.
yeah.
Wonderful.
And can I just add, Mayor, I'm sorry, so Councilman Hernandez did do a great job in getting us a large venue. We were going to use the Veterans Memorial High School. The other four council districts, we didn't have a big venue, so the
Right.
councilman was gracious enough to go virtual this year, but that's a good point. Next year, we can do all five if we're still in this pandemic scenario in big venues where we can social distance. So I appreciate
Yeah,
that
and I
comment.
would reiterate that it is the intent to always be in front of our constituents. Unfortunately, and obviously it goes without saying, under the circumstances, it's very delicate, because some people think it's enough social distancing, and many think no, and then it's not fair. So it's a difficult year, but I think in the end, we absolutely all want in person, and we'll do, as you have done, the best we can do. Councilman Pusley, I was going to save my comments for the end.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Peter, I just want to reiterate some of the comments here. I want to thank you and your staff for all the hard work you put in to putting the budget together, to answering our questions. I want to thank Constance and her staff for putting up with the 400 emails I sent to her asking her questions. I'm very encouraged by the process. I feel very good about it. I think we, as you said, we went through this with a fine-tooth comb. I've often remarked to constituents that what you look for in a budget is the discretionary spending and whether or not you have to do that. And I just want to, caution council and your Peter, yourself and your staff that I'm a big supporter of parks, but that is discretionary spending, and we need to be very careful about how we spend that money, because now I relate everything to streets. It takes us $1 million to build a mile of a residential street. So every $1 million we spend somewhere else in discretionary spending could be spent on building a mile of neighborhood streets. So we need to be cognizant of that and respectful of that. We've talked about this many times, and I didn't bring it up during the budget, but I think it's something, because we had so much to do, but something I'd like to see us work on is a policy where when we are putting together bidding matrices to approve contracts, that we have something in there that gives preferential treatment to our local companies. People who live here, who pay their taxes here, where their kids go to school here. We need to be respectful of that. And I know my colleague here has talked about that many times, Councilman Barrera, and I agree with that. I think we need to have something that allows us to give some preferential treatment to those people who live here and work here. So thank you again very much, and let's move forward. This is a great budget for the city.
Thank you,
Did you want to
Councilman.
comment?
Yes, I did. So, Councilman, I'm trying to recall if you were on the council, but we have an outside firm evaluating all of our purchasing protocols, policy, procedures. Their scope of work also includes developing for us a recommendation on a local preference program. The city doesn't really have one. There's some reference to one, but it's not enacted. And so that'll include local preference points. So when we are scoring contracts, proposals, there'll be preference points automatic if the company's headquartered or has a presence here. So yes, so we'll be bringing that forward in the coming weeks. It'll probably be either October or November. I know they have a draft policy document to share with me. I think it's either this week or next week. So we'll be in front of the council pretty soon with that. Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Peter.
Yeah.
And with that, I'm just going to close out the, comments on the budget by thanking you, Peter, thanking your team, Constance, our CFO, who were we know the work that it entails, and it's a team behind you, it's a team behind Peter, it isn't just one person, so we're very grateful. It is a huge endeavor, and I know the process is long, and we weren't able to really focus. I'm really glad you're bringing this to all of our attention, and you delineated exactly what all the positive things, it's nothing but positive. It is your job, and it is so difficult for you to balance out how do we take, in consideration, Councilman Bonetta, you came on 19? Oh, 2019. And Councilman Pusley, you're bringing up a very good point that we haven't really been able to hone in on. It's a difficult balance at the same time because it's a tax dollar. And we've got to make sure that we are, and then I'm talking about the local and being able to balance that a little better. Of course, I mean, I was a small business owner, I was local, so it matters. But at the same time, my point is you have a huge, huge job. And you know that. I mean, that's what you signed up for, as what we signed up for as council members. But I just want to thank you because you did an amazing job. You're the leader of the team overall. And that balanced budget has never, ever hit $1 billion. So we thank you because you are listening to us. We are doing our best to listen to our constituency. And that's how this all works. So I thank you very much for bringing it all up. This is all extremely worthy to note and for us to all take back to our constituents and remind them of every dollar that how it is spent and all the quality of life issues and the services that they deserve that they're going to get. So we look forward to that extra 60% more in funding for streets because while we do that, we have to not let other things go. And there's so many other things. So thank you very much to the entire team, to everyone who's working in this building and outside of this building and driving vehicles and working hard during, this last weekend. I have to tell you guys, we were extremely busy. There's such an echo on this, I'm sorry. We didn't get the storm, but the team and everyone that wears the city logo was ready to go, on point, just as if we were getting a huge hurricane. And that is amazing. I felt so comfortable and so confident, Peter, so impressed in every call. And so I just want to thank you for that because that makes me feel like we are ready. Everything is in line. I mean, I'm so proud of our team. And I'm going to start calling it we are Team Corpus Christi, but it is a team effort, and so thank you for that as well.
Yeah, you're welcome, Mayor. Thank you so much for those comments.
Mm-hmm.
We do have another item. Speaking of team, we're adding 2 new executives to our team, filling 2 vacancies that we had, and I want to introduce them this morning. That includes a new assistant city manager, Andrea Gardner, and then a new assistant director at the airport of aviation, Elsie Borgstad. And let me begin with our assistant city manager. So Andrea Gardner, we want to welcome her to the community. Earlier this morning, we had a press event to help to begin to orient her and introduce her to the community. Both Andrea and Elsie, I should add, before I get into giving you some background on Andrea, bring further professionalism and diversity to this organization. With Andrea's appointment, I can now say that the executive leadership team in the city manager's office is filled. And so we had that last vacancy. We were using a recruiting firm, make sure we got the best candidate. Similar to what we did with Neiman, we took time. We had a lot of candidates that we could have hired, but we wanted to get the best. And that is true with Andrea as well. Diversity has been important to us in leadership positions. With Andrea, we will now have 2 women, 2 African American, and 2 Hispanics in the city manager's office, which if you look back 2 years ago, you couldn't really say that. Our team of 8 individuals, including myself, bring a unique skill set and different viewpoints to our work every day. We work real closely as a team, but having those alternate viewpoints is something that Chief Markle has talked about when he recruits police officers. We can respond better to the community if we think like the community. And so we're happy to say that the city manager's office has that and will continue to foster that. The viewpoints of our team will work together with the viewpoints, as the mayor just said, with the mayor and the city council, and that's going to help guide us into the future. The executive leadership team, just to give you a little background context, so those 8 individuals, including myself, we work with an executive team of 60 top professionals. So if you think of our city, we have 28 departments. There's about 60 professionals directors, assistant directors running those departments, so we provide them leadership oversight and cohesive direction in their workday. So Andrea, give you a little background on her. She is going to oversee several city departments, and some of which she is an expert at, and others she enjoys working over. So Parks and Recreation will be one of her departments. The recently created Neighborhood Services Department, we know that has code enforcement, animal care, homelessness, and housing. And our federal grant entitlement monies, she'll be overseeing that. Andrea will also oversee libraries, planning, and for the first time, we're going to have an economic development office in our organizational chart. That was something that wasn't here when I came here 2.5 years ago, and I know we have our Economic Development Corporation. We need them. We provide $800,000 annually to their operation. The City Council approves that annually. But we do have a lot of economic development initiatives that are underway right now that are kind of scattered throughout our organization on top of the EDC's important work. And so our organizational chart will now have an Office of Economic Development, and Andrea will oversee that. She has some strong expertise in economic development. Andrea has over 19 years of public service experience. Most recently, she was a city manager for the city of Watauga, Texas, which is up by Fort Worth. Her duties as city manager there included overseeing economic development at that city, and she helped create a funding stream for economic development and developed a business retention program as well there. Andrea holds a Bachelor of Science in Accounting from the University of Houston, Clear Lake, and she's a certified public manager. She'll also be taking a test this fall to be a certified economic development specialist. She's been studying 2 years for that, so we know she's going to do well on those tests later this fall. So her first day was yesterday, and we have a trend now. So she started on what was almost a tropical storm, and Neiman started, his first day was when we had the extreme weather event. So thank God all the positions are full, because we don't want any more natural disasters, right, to fill. Right? Yeah, so Andrea is here with us this morning, and we did want her to come up just to say a few words to the council.
Thank you, Mr. Zanoni. I appreciate that. Madam Mayor and Council, I'd first like to take this moment to thank you and Peter for allowing me the opportunity to serve your great community. As a native Texan with over 19 years of local government experience, I am excited about the opportunities that are before me. As Peter indicated, I do have those 19 years of experience, and I hope to be able to share some of my knowledge and experiences with the city of Corpus Christi and its staff. I've been here for all of one day, and with the tropical storm that Peter mentioned in the Gulf, I was provided the opportunity to get to know a lot of the department heads. So I see that as a positive. And I also got to see how well the staff works together, and I do think that that speaks volumes for Mr. Zanoni's leadership. I do look forward to getting to know all of the other employees that I haven't had the opportunity to meet, but I had many that took the time out of their busy day yesterday to stop by and welcome me to your community, and I'm very appreciative of that fact. To let you know a little bit about myself, I was born in Houston and raised part of my childhood in Houston, and then the other half, the later half, in East Texas, where I graduated high school in a small town called Henderson. After I graduated high school, I returned to the Houston area and completed my Bachelor of Science degree in accounting, as Peter indicated, from the University of Houston, Clear Lake. While I was going to school, I was also working part-time, so I'd basically work a semester, go to school a semester, because I came from a large family that couldn't afford to put all of the children through college, so we had to figure out a way to do it ourselves. And I didn't want any student loan debt, so I decided to do it that way, work a semester and go to school a semester. It took me 8 years to get a 4-year degree, but I got it. And for that, I am proud. After I finished the degree program, the insurance company that I was working for offered for me to enter a management leadership program in Overland Park, Kansas, so I did that. And I'm very grateful for that leadership experience that I got at a very young age. Then I decided to start a family, and I had twin daughters that are now going to be 25 next month. and they are my only children, and I'm very proud of them as well. After having my girls, I decided a career change was best and went into local government. So I'm very proud of working in local government. I appreciate the opportunities of working in all the communities that I've had the opportunity to work in: Pasadena, Pearland, Coppers Cove, Watauga, and now Corpus Christi. It has been a long dream of mine to be able to move into a coastal community and also work for and with that community. So I look forward to it. As Mr. Zanoni indicated, I do have a lot of educational knowledge that I've obtained over the years in economic development and completed a lot of coursework that took a lot of personal time. And so I'm a firm believer in you can find out what's important to somebody by the amount of time that they spend doing something and where they spend their time. And so public service is a calling, and I do take that serious, and I am a very dedicated and devoted public employee, and I look forward to working with the mayor and council and Mr. Zanoni to make this community the top-tier community that I know that the mayor and council and Mr. Zanoni desire it to be. And I'm just here to contribute and be a part of all the success that I know has come in this city's way with Mr. Zanoni at the head of the leadership table. So thank you all very much for this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Andrea. Welcome.
Thank you, Andrea. That was real nice. I also have one other appointment to share with you this morning. I recently appointed Elsie Borgstad as the Assistant Director for Aviation. Elsie has 12 years of municipal and aviation industry experience, and most recently she was the Assistant Airport Director for the City of Laredo. And while there, actually, in her tenure, she actually served as the interim director for, I think, about a year early in her career. So she has a lot of experience in the aviation field. She, at Laredo, led many airport capital improvement projects. That's one of the reasons we were attracted to her leadership skills. She held several leadership roles in the areas of finance and administration and airport operations as well. Elsie holds a Bachelor's of Business Administration degree in finance from Texas A&M International University, and she's a certified member of the American Association of Airport Executives. And so I'd like to welcome her as well. She's here with us this morning, and she's going to say a few words as well.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elsie.
Good afternoon, Madam Mayor and City Council. Again, Elsie Borgstad, it's a pleasure to be here. Very excited to be in Corpus. This is my first time being in Corpus, living here. And I want to thank, of course, the executive team with city manager, assistant city manager, and of course Kevin at the airport. Everyone's been excellent, very friendly. I've already fully relocated and had some weather to really welcome me into the coastal town. So as Peter mentioned, I've worked in several areas of the airport in my previous assignment in Laredo. Over 12 years of experience from capital planning, strategic development, and I hope to go ahead and continue those efforts here in Corpus, as well as in marketing, air service development, air cargo. But my history has been in different areas of both the U.S. and in Mexico. I actually have extended family in Mexico, in Monterrey, Nuevo León, which is where all my extended family is from. And I lived and grew up in Laredo and have lived in San Antonio as well and worked in areas of real estate and banking. So I think that helped me come into the airport from a different perspective, which I apply every day to what we do, because it's important to be able to bring in the community to every aspect of our services. And I think that's what I hope to do, is have more community involvement as we go forward in the team. So thank you. Thank you for having me.
Welcome, Elsie.
Yeah, thank you, Elsie. And Mayor and Council, I think both Elsie and Andrea demonstrate one of the goals I've had that the council asked me to have over 2 years ago, which was to attract and retain top talent, bringing that top talent in from across the country to lead our almost 30 different lines of business in our organization. So our two professionals that spoke to you this morning certainly demonstrate that, and we're glad they're part of our team. So thank you.
Mr.
Yes.
Hernandez?
Yes, in going with the tradition of District 5 tours, Andrea, you'll be getting an invitation from me, but I'll let you get your feet underneath you, so it'll be about a month. I'll reach out to you, and we'll do a tour of District 5. Thank you.
Great. And then Mayor and Council, just one other item for this morning, and that includes a 2021 summer survey result from our CEO of our Convention and Visitors Bureau, Brett Otting. He's here with us this morning. He's going to present an overview of the economic impact and visitor experience in our coastal Bend region during the summer months, which go from May through August. Alone during the Labor Day weekend, we had over 23,000 vehicles cross the Park Road 22 bridge each day. So on average, 23,000 vehicles went across that bridge, and that was slightly less than, but pretty close to what we had during the 4th of July. So Brett has been with us since March 2020, and he's been doing a great job reimagining and recreating our CVB. And with that, we'll turn it over to him to do our program review for what happened this summer.
Thanks, Peter. Good afternoon, everyone. So we're going to talk a lot about leisure travel, but really fast I want to talk about sales as well. This slide right here, as you all know, we rebuilt our group sales department over the last few months as well. We spent a lot of time over the off season during the summertime doing a lot of traveling, going to trade shows, talking with clients. This 54,000 rooms for almost $34 million in economic development. These are active RFPs that we have out to different convention and conference groups that were welcomed by us to apply for. We will not get all of these groups and all these room nights, but we will get a decent amount of them as we continue to work and try to foster those better relationships with those groups. So just a good indication of what the sales team is doing as well. Okay, what you're going to look at on this slide is you're going to look at the orange compared to the yellow. The orange is 2021, the yellow is 2019. On the left, you see overall hotel room night revenue for May, June, July. You see as the summer went on, revenues continued to outpace the 2019 year for hotel rooms. That is a $5 million gap there at the very end there in July. On the right side, the room nights, that is a 5,000 person room night. So we sold 5,000 more hotel rooms in 2021 than we did in 2019, which is very good. So it's just a good wrap up to show we had a very successful summer. You saw some of this slide last time I was here, but the last couple things I just want to talk about is this is one digital campaign that we ran this summer, and to show the impact that our digital marketing can have and the way we do things. That campaign brought in $5 million in revenue to area hospitality partners, 24,000 hotel room nights, 1,600 flights. These are individuals around Texas and the country that see an ad for Visit Corpus Christi, where we are strategically placing ads on different websites. They clicked that ad, and then they chose to book a hotel room or an airplane ticket on that because they saw our ad. So what we are doing is definitely making a difference in how we're advertising. Here's some examples of some digital ads that you might have saw this summer. Some print ads. We had a full page spread, a full page advertisement in Texas Monthly magazine. This right here is really exciting. This is public relations. These are all different articles from different websites and media companies throughout the summertime that talked about Corpus Christi. We did not pay these people to do this, but what our PR team is doing is we're trying to reach out to these magazines, reach out to these websites, educate them on what is unique about Corpus Christi, why someone should want to come here, and then they ended up deciding that what we said was enough, and they posted these on their websites, they posted these in their newsletters and so forth. So this is great free advertising, and this is something everybody, each one of you and the community should be proud of as well, that there are national magazines and national websites that are talking about Corpus Christi out there. Okay, why Peter really asked me to come is we started a trial program with our Gulf Coasters that you all have heard me talk about a lot. We have the 2 golf carts out on the Gulf beaches, and we're going out and we're interacting with individuals. So what we started doing is we started a survey program where while we're out there interacting with them, we're asking them just a couple questions. We're not doing it very obtrusive where they can tell it's a survey. We're mostly just asking them how things are going, where they're from, and then we do ask them at the very end if they would like to put a thought in, a no in the end, into the iPad. So we used a program called Net Promoter Score, and this is something I've used in my past. This is something that's a way to do surveys. The survey question is 1 to 10, and what we're asking them is, would you recommend visit Corpus Christi, or would you recommend Corpus Christi to somebody else when you get home? Yes or no, 1 through 10. The top 2 are the promoters. Those are people that will go back and really tell people. They give us a 9 or a 10. They're going back and they're telling people on their social media, their friends and family, how great of a time they had. If they're doing a 7 or 8, that's a passive. That means that they might tell somebody they had just an average time. They might tell people they recommend Corpus Christi. They might not. Anything under 7, they're probably not going to say, you should go to Corpus Christi as well. So what we're really looking for is we're trying to figure out ways to get people to give 9s or 10s. It's very hard to do that. The national average for Net Promoter Score, major U.S. companies use Net Promoter Score in their surveying as well. It's usually about a 50% average, 50 people more. So we finished this year, we did 440 surveys throughout the summer, had an 82, which is very, very high. That's very, very high compared to most other organizations that would do that. So we then went, yes, ma'am.
Go ahead.
So then we went up and we asked them different questions.
I'm
Why
sorry.
are you here?
Go back to the next screen.
Oh,
real quick.
oh,
Yeah, I
there.
was just reading that down there. Most visitors, strong government Corpus Christi as a vacation destination. So 80, so that's, yeah. That's,
What this means is that 82 more people would vote to say, give us a 9 or a 10 than a 6 on down out of each number. So we had way more people
yeah.
say, yeah, 9 or 10 than 6 on down. And even the 7s and 8s. So the majority of who filled out surveys, 90% or better. Very, very good. Very good. So then what I'm going to show you now is some breakdowns of why they gave those scores. So the first one, obviously most of the people here were on vacation. But we did ask some other things because sometimes you have friends and family coming to town. It's not really a vacation. They might just be here for something else. And so some people, you know, for instance, number 3 was a wedding. So some people hit the beach while they were here in town for a wedding. The number of days stayed, this is really important. You all know from our metrics, the 2 most important metrics that we have as an organization is to extend the visitor's length of stay and to get the per person per day spending of each visitor higher, meaning that they're spending more money while they're here. The average a year and a half ago was 2.8 days that they would stay. You see right here, the people that we surveyed were staying 3 and 4 days. Why that's important is that means that they're not coming just on a Friday and leaving on a Sunday. They're coming on maybe a Thursday and leaving on Sunday. Maybe they're coming on Friday but staying through Monday. So they're staying longer, and if they're staying longer, they're spending more money. So that's a bonus for us. Where they stayed, most of them stayed in hotels. Second was short-term rentals. The third is private residence. We do feel that we need to clean up that question a little more because we're guessing by the way the surveys were scored, most of those private residents were all actually staying in Airbnbs and VRBOs. So if we added those together, we're about 50-50 of those survey responses that were staying in hotels or short-term rentals. In-state versus out-of-state, we also are able to track where people are coming from. And what you'll see is those individuals that came from out-of-state actually scored us higher. They don't have as quite many people in their party as locals do, as people from Texas, but they did stay longer, 5.04 days, and they did give us a higher rating of a 9.7. 9.7, that's, again, out of 10, that's a really great score. People from out of state, when they come here, are very surprised. And I, again, like I've said to you multiple times, can attest to that. I did not know much about Corpus Christi till I came here. I'm a big fan now. In-state visitors, this is a heat map of where they came from by their zip code. So you see, obviously, San Antonio, Austin, Houston, but up in the top right, you see Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. We did not do very much advertising prior to myself being here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We do see a lot of visitors coming from that area now. We did spend a lot of time and money this summer advertising up there. Out-of-state visitors. This helps Kevin's still behind me. This helps Kevin and Tyler and I when we're trying to bring in more air service, and Elsie now. as well. So what is relevant here is every single data point that Kevin and Tyler and I have talked about for the last year, what we've talked to you all about is that you see Denver, Oklahoma City, Tulsa, Kansas City, New Orleans. Those continue to be, no matter what way we look at the analytics and the surveys and the scores and the data, those cities continue to be our top out-of-state markets. And so those are the markets, especially from a out-of-state marketing standpoint, we continue to work on. Comments and concerns, these are very interesting. This is at the very end, we asked them to give a comment. So the larger the word, the more people made comments on this. Most of these are attributed to being very positive because the scores were very positive. However, if you look at the individual specific responses, you'll see a couple things. The first, if we go to the third bullet point, the vast majority using the word clean was positive, but some of them were negative. So cleanliness is important. Now, keep in mind, again, these individuals that were being surveyed were on the North Padre Gulf beaches, okay? So we'd be looking at Whitecap Beach, Windward Beach, South Packery Channel area. Parking was a lower score. That was a negative score. Related complaints to not having enough parking, stricter parking rules, people double parking, for instance. So that's something that people are noticing. And then the third one that was a negative also was bathroom accessibility over there. So that's something that we'll work with the city staff and trying to figure out some solutions. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and so Brett, we know they stayed in hotel, we don't know where though, right? We don't know if it, I mean, it could be anywhere. It could be downtown or.
Correct. We know that from a different set. We do not know where these 440 people stayed that fill these surveys out, but we do know where the majority of everybody stayed by different data sets.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
The median household income, this is relevant here on the right side. If you look at the right graph, what you'll see here is that as the median income of a household increases, the scores slightly decreased. Why this is relevant, which the top score is still a 9, it's still very, very high. But why this is relevant is because a few months ago I stood up here and explained our visitor profiles, that we have a higher than what we thought about amount of individuals that are high income earners coming to Corpus Christi. It used to be, yes ma'am.
Could you read, it's very, I can't read them.
Yes.
It's too small and it is just not
Under-
too clear. Just read
Under
the
under
different ones.
50,000, household income of under 50,000 is 9.6. 50 to 100,000 is 9.58. 100 to 150 is 9.08, and over 150 is 9. So still, the highest income earners that we scored gave us a 9 out of 10. Very, very high. But you see that there is a trend that the more money they make, the more expectations that they have, which goes to what our surveying and our data showed, that there are actually individuals here that are high income earners, according to the government, and the way they score high income earners, that are looking to come to Corpus Christi, that are looking for nice amenities. So that is something that we'll continue to look at and work at in our strategic plan next year, in our business plan, as we try to figure out how we can cater to everybody that wants to come here. This is a snapshot of where our visitors came from. This is not the surveys anymore. This is a different data set. This is a data set that tracks GPS data. Here's where the majority of our visitors came from over the summer. San Antonio continues to be the top one. That will always be the top one because of that 2-hour drive market. But what you see is you see Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Waco, and at the bottom, Oklahoma City on the left. Those are all markets that we had not marketed to prior to myself being here. And then on the right, you see those growing markets. Dallas, Fort Worth was the second growing market, followed by Austin. And then you also see Oklahoma City down there again. So Oklahoma City is our top out-of-state market. Kevin and I had a talk about that a couple weeks ago from a different data set that showed that Oklahoma City passed Denver this summer as our top out-of-state market. And then the very last slide that I have is going into the summertime, we started a discount pass program with a different partner, a national partner. And what we did is we worked with those 5 attractions, the Corpus Christi Science and History Museum, the Botanical Gardens, the Aquarium, the Art Museum, and the USS Lexington. We put those together in a package, and we worked with each of them individually to give us a discount program. And we sold these discount passes to visitors as they came here as an added value. We chose to not keep any of that money because we knew that the attractions were hurting this year. So we gave every single penny back. In that very last line, we gave $111,915 to those 5 attractions over this last year. Or I'm sorry, over this last summer. So we are going to continue that program. We are working on some different iterations of ways to get more attractions involved, more tours involved, and try to get more people around the community partnering with us on this program, because the visitors are very eager to look at different package programs, because it makes it a lot easier if they can go and just buy one ticket off of our website that gets them into all the different attractions. And that's it.
Councilman Smith?
Thank you, Brett, for the excellent presentation, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate the hard work that you all are doing down there with it. And these numbers are very impressive, and you know, I think we've always had a little bit of a self-esteem problem here. Oh, we're just a drive market, and people really don't like to come to Corpus Christi. But you know, you're presenting us with hard data that says otherwise.
Numbers don't lie.
And I've seen what's happened on the Florida Panhandle in the last 30 years. I think we may be there, and your data supports that. So I'm looking at Kevin right back there on, you know, your air traffic on there. You added $25,000 in revenue to his line with it. But to me, the most important thing is we've got a market past Texas. And what you're doing and changing that focus on there to really broaden us up there and to create that upward spiral is great. Now, you mentioned you're working groups and conferences there. So you know, we haven't had a full-service hotel new in decades. Do we have any, is that restrictive to your ability to sell our lack of new facilities?
Absolutely. You know, when I said that those 54,000 rooms, that we will not get all of those room nights, the number one reason why is because of a lack of a connected convention hotel. There'll be other reasons as well, but I sent each of you an email about 2 weeks ago that had a spreadsheet showing all those what we call denials when we get down to the final 2 or 3 of a convention group and they choose another city over us, and then we have a meeting with them and ask them what could we have done better. Those individuals that say you did not have enough meeting space or the hotel was too far away were tracked in one spreadsheet, and that's what you saw. And so there will be quite a few of those 54,000 rooms that we're planning to say no at some point because of that.
Well, we're talking conventions, the big stuff, but I guess where I'm asking that our conference hotels, those full-service hotels that have the meeting space necessary for a lot of the small groups, you know, not the home runs, but I'd rather have 500 singles than one home run. Mm-hmm. Do we have adequate space there, or is that an issue also?
I will say that I was surprised when I got here at the lack of full-service hotels in a city this size. I think that you can always have more flexible opportunities. That's what we try to sell here. That's what we're under me is what we're trying to sell is flexible opportunities depending on what kind of group you have and what time of year you're coming and so forth. But there is less than 5 hotels here in town that can host an event for over 100 people, let's say, if you're not talking about the American Bank Center.
Mm-hmm. And so is that detrimental to our ability?
That is a little more difficult to answer. We're focused mainly on the large citywide events. We do work with those individual hotels, but what we try to do is we try to support them and give them all the tools that they need so they can go out and try to find those smaller 100 to 200 type conferences that can fit just in their hotel. That's something that a hotel themselves should really be focusing on, but we do send them leads as well. But as far as us working those leads, those are we need to be working on the ones that are going to fill hundreds of hotel rooms.
Yeah. And then the last thing, capacity. So as you were comparing the numbers on there for summer is the big time. Are we seeing some capacity issues. I know our air traffic, we're running a 91% load factor in July, so that's basically full. We don't have enough flights coming in. You can sell those markets, but there's no seats on the planes. So how's our room capacity for our peaks?
During the summertime, there are weekends, Friday nights, Saturday nights, where the occupancy of the 10,000 hotel rooms in the city will be 95 to 98%. If you think about just weekends, someone might say we need more hotel rooms, but that number drops back down in the upper 70s and 80s during the week. And then when it's not summertime, that number is not there either. The more hotels that are not the strategic type of hotels that we need in the market, the more hotels that are built, what is going to happen is it's going to cause competition amongst the existing hotels. And when there's competition, oftentimes the rate lowers, and it's actually going to be a long-term negative for those hotels and for the city. With all the info that I have, think that if there were new hotels to be built, there would need to be very strategic on the types of hotels and the locations. So I guess that's a long-winded answer to say I do not recommend that people start running to Corpus Christi to build hotels, unless it's a very specific type of hotel.
Thank you very much, and again, thank you for all the great work you're doing.
Mr. Zanoni, did you have a comment?
Great, thank you, Mayor, because I wanted to piggyback on Councilman Smith, and Brett, you're going to have to answer the question, but I was surprised to learn, I think this week, that there's really a limited number of hotels on the island itself. I think that's what Councilman Smith is getting to.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us the number of hotel rooms on the island? We're talking just about the Padre Island that's in the city's territory.
246.
Right, that's,
I believe, which is
so
half
that's
the Omni, half the size of the Omni.
Yeah, that was surprising to me when I learned that this week, Councilman. I was also surprised. I didn't realize that hotel, the Holiday Inn, has been closed since Harvey, right there on the seawall. So
Yeah.
I just want to raise this policy issue to the council that only less than 250 hotel rooms in all of our island area. And one of the biggest ones has been closed since Harvey.
Yeah.
And
that would be a
We
location
got to work on for sure.
Yeah. And that would be a location where I would say strategic locations would make sense.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Zanoni. Mr. Hernandez.
Thank you, Mayor. I guess a couple weeks ago, I made a recommendation that we look at an opportunity, since there are no convention center hotel, I mean, there's not even one close, within walking distance, about the possibility of, instead of investing in the Water Garden, to do a ground lease for a convention center hotel, where we're not in the hotel business, right? But what would we need to do to explore that option?
There are developers that have reached out to myself, multiple different developers, and some that have reached out to others that are sitting up here as well. Probably just listen to them and see there's multiple different ways that a hotel can be built with a private-public partnership, and what it means to build a hotel on public land. So probably the first thing would be to set up a meeting or a call, and so they could educate the council or the city staff on how a process like that would not burden the city from a financial standpoint.
Well, which is kind of what my thought process was. We have a need, but we don't have necessarily, an unlimited amount of financing for all this. So if there's other ways we can use other people's money, it's always an option, and where we share in the risk and the reward and the investment. I think for us as a community, we probably need to have more information as to what kind of options we would have, and a recommendation from staff as to what would be the best option. And it could be, I was thinking where the Water Garden is, because you kind of have great views on all sides, especially when the new bridge comes in. You'll have, views on the backside of where that would be. So, but I don't want to be in the hotel business. I don't want to, spend Ubers of dollars for building something that we may or may not get, the bang for our buck on, and plus we're not the experts in operating it. So if you can, and I asked this from our city manager, give us some options as to what would be the best vehicle to do something like that, or at least explore the idea of doing something like that. And then, if we want, we could require that hotel to have a water feature to replace the water garden specifically, since it is a feature that's in that area. But I think it would be a great opportunity for us to look at it, not only from a financial side, but from a practicality side. Thank you.
Will do. Yep.
Thank you. And Mr. Presley?
Yeah, Brett, thank you very much. Great report. Could you go back to your last slide there just a second? I wanted to the numbers there. Could you explain to me again exactly what this is? Ticket sales that came through your department for these different groups. Is that correct?
There is a national company that creates online ticketing. That's an online ticketing platform.
Sure.
That we created a program, a pass called the Coast Your Own Way Pass. A visitor could go onto our website, and we advertise this, would go onto our website and they could buy the pass that included the ability to go to each of those attractions. And the payment that they paid, we would then turn around and we would distribute back to those attractions after they visited those attractions, to the tune of $112,000.
Okay. Well, that's great. Okay. Yeah, I'm very interested to hear what our options are too, with respect to, and we have to be very careful how we do this. We have a number of hotel owners who have invested big time in this community, and they support, they pay their taxes here, they have their operations here, they support our local nonprofit organizations big time. So we have to be careful about this, but we have lost some fairly large conventions. The one that I was most disappointed about, we lost the FFA convention that had been here for years, and I think it was specifically because they just couldn't get the hotel space.
It was.
And when they came here, I mean, it was amazing to me how many yellow buses there were parked around that facility, and so I think we need to carefully look at it, be sure we include our local hotel motel owners in the discussions. I mean, maybe one of them is interested in doing it, but I'm like Councilman Hernandez. I don't want to run a hotel, but it certainly wouldn't be the first time that a governmental entity did a ground lease with somebody to, further the investment in this community. And I too would like to see them own and operate the water feature. I have said many times, it's just not conducive to good public relations for governmental entities to own water features. They're a maintenance nightmare, and especially in an area like we live in, a drought-prone area, for us to be spraying water in the air when people are being told not to water their yard. So I agree. I think it's something we need to look at very carefully.
Well, we'd be happy to work with Peter and his team to identify some of those companies. And understanding there's some very important hotel owners that own hotels in Corpus Christi that are headquartered in Corpus Christi, that actually they own hotels in Austin and San Antonio and Houston as well. And we've had conversations with them, but as we continue to go through a summer, I think that what this summer showed is we just experienced an all-time high overnight stay record year with no conventions. So the concept that adding another hotel is going to take away business, I think that this summer showed that the way that we're marketing and the way individuals that are learning about Corpus Christi are interested in coming here and then going back and telling their friends that they should come here, that we can be very successful at leisure marketing while at the same time selling to groups and conventions as well.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Brett.
The last thing I'll say is those surveys, it worked. We're going to expand that next year. We're actually going to be doing these surveys all throughout the summer, or all throughout the year. We will not be on the beaches throughout the winter months, but we will be in our visitor center doing this as well. Going into next spring, starting in spring break, we will be doing these same types of surveys on North Beach. So we'll be out on a golf cart out there, or some kind of a cart, to be able to get out to the beach there, to the Lexington, to the aquarium, asking individuals how their stay is. Same questions, but we want to expand that. And then we're also, once summer hits, we'll be out on the seawall as well, asking individuals as well.
What about downtown? Should we look at?
The visitor center is
okay.
asking every individual that comes in there these same questions, but then we'll have someone out on the seawall during the weekends as well, when individuals are walking around the park
Okay.
and the T heads as well.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, and I also want to thank you for including the South Texas Botanical Gardens in that. It's a big, I mean, they're huge, they have a huge economic impact to our city, and for returning that. That was very gracious, and I'm sure they were very, very appreciative of that, especially right now.
Yeah.
So thank you, Brett, you're doing an amazing job.
thank you.
So is your team.
Thanks, everybody.
So, Mayor, that concludes the city manager's report. I did just want to add that the CBB is governed by a board of directors, and ultimately they hire, and Brett reports to them. But I did have the opportunity to sit with several CBB board members to recruit the CEO, in this case, Brett Otting. And he's another great example of top talent that's been brought to our city. I think you can tell by his presentation that he's done not only today, but in many of the briefings to council.
Right.
So we have a great CBB director, and I want to thank him for relocating here. He came from Kansas, so he's doing a great job. We had a great season, and we look forward to continuing to work with him
Yes, we do.
in his profession. Thank you, Brett.
Yes, we do. Thank you, Brett. Okay, so that concludes your report, Mr. Zanoni? Yes? Yes. Okay, great. So we'll move on to Section I, which is board and committee appointments.
Yes, ma'am. So for board and committee appointments, we do have the first committee that we'll look at is the Capital Improvement Advisory Committee. There are 2 vacancies. And at this time, we will be recommending the postponement of Councilmember Lerma's appointment for further recruitment. But we do recommend moving forward with City Manager Zanoni's appointment. He is nominating Melody Nixon Bice, subject to council confirmation.
Capital improvement.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, okay. So it's 2, Councilman Lerma's and yours?
Yes, but Councilmember Letterman's not ready to move forward at this time,
Oh,
so we'll
he's
just
not
move
ready to
forward with
okay.
Mr.
Okay,
Zanoni's.
so one of them. Okay, so
Right.
we just need to nominate.
Well, he's nominated Melody Nixon Bryce, so at this time, it's subject to council confirmation.
I
So we
see.
can get a motion
Sure.
to
Move
I'll
to
entertain a
confirm.
motion. I'm
Thank you.
sorry?
Move to appoint.
Okay. I don't think, do we need a second on these?
It's an appointment, so
It is
yes,
an
we would
appointment,
hear.
yes.
Yes,
Okay,
ma'am.
great.
It's
So
not
we have
nomination.
the motion and a second. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no.
Okay,
The
and
motion
Mr. Hunter
carries.
did vote on that, correct? Okay.
Yes, you did.
Can we see Mr. Hunter? I'm sorry, the
Yeah.
Open Meetings Act requires video conferencing
Right.
at this point for,
Okay.
so.
There
he is.
Thank
Thank you. Okay.
He's dressed. Okay.
I know, it's great. All right.
Okay.
So next we have the Corpus Christi. Next we have the Corpus Christi Aquifer Storage and Recovery Conservation District. There are 3 vacancies. Historically, city staff has served on the board, and City Manager Zanoni is recommending the appointments of Michael Murphy, Amber Otting, and the reappointment of Dan McGinn. So he's already made the nominations here.
I move for approval.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Pessling.
Peter, I have a question about, is this Aquifer and Conservation District, is this something that is required by some governmental entity for us to have one of these committees, or do we ever plan on actually doing aquifer storage? Or
I'm gonna
I
give you,
just,
yeah,
I
Miles,
just question the
yeah.
validity of even having this committee.
So we do, as the city's been studying alternate water sources, right? Aquifer storage and recovery is that was one of the policy options to consider. And so we required to have the committee, but we also, there is an aquifer district here, even though we're not a limestone area like San Antonio.
Right.
With their water district. We do have a defined district, and we're required by state law to have a board to oversee that. So it has been traditionally, the board is overseen by city staff, people that know about the water business, like Mike Murphy, Amber.
Right.
Yeah, so we are required to have this. And Miles, is there anything else I'm missing?
Yeah, I can get a full legal analysis, the district, all the history, all the as much information as you would like, but
No, I don't need that. I just, I know the people you mentioned know a lot about water, but I know a little something about geology, and this is not an area that is conducive to aquifer storage, just as you mentioned. So I just wondered where we're headed with this.
Yeah, yeah, go ahead, Councilman.
There's a specific request in my district for a water well, for a water feature. And in order for it to comply with the state of Texas, this board needs to approve it.
Right, that's one of the, right, as Councilman Barrera said, that's one of the duties that this board oversees. Anytime somebody wants to drill a well, they need to get approval from the board.
Okay, well then maybe I need to see more about their roles and responsibilities.
Okay, we'll get you the staff reviewed it with me probably a month ago or 6 weeks ago, so,
Why don't you
but we'll
send it
get
to
you
all of us?
detail. Yeah, we'll get it to the full council.
Sounds good.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so we will move on to.
We need to vote.
Where are we?
So we just have a motion and a second to
Oh.
appoint Murphy, Auding, and reappoint Mr. McGinn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The motion carries.
Okay, Mr. Hunter, you were there, right?
Ma'am.
All right. Thank you. Okay, so next we have the Corpus Christi B Corporation and the Corpus Christi Business and Job Development Corporation, the Type A and Type B boards. So there are 3 vacancies on each board, and historically, the same person served on both the Type A and the B boards. So there are 3 members seeking reappointment, and they are Scott Harris, John Valls, and Alan Wilson, and their attendance rates are in your packets.
Mayor, I move for reappointment of the 3.
Second.
Okay, do we have any further discussion? Mr. Hernandez?
Yes. I have a concern with one of the members that serves on another taxing entity, the hospital district, and I was wondering if there was any issues with one person serving on 2 taxing entities, or if that's an issue.
Mr.
You
Risley?
can get a legal
Oh,
opinion on
I'm
that.
sorry, Rebecca,
No,
I'm so sorry.
Mr. Risley can.
Okay.
so the other entity is what?
The hospital district, Nueces County Hospital District.
I'll look that up, but I'm kind of skeptical that you can. But I mean, that's a.
Well, considering that the hospital district is a taxing entity and this individual serves on that board as well as the Type A, Type B corporation, which is also a taxing entity, I thought there would be an issue.
Yeah, that's the kind of question that you probably ought to bring up when we can actually research the issue.
Yeah.
Well,
Well, and
I can't tell you I would want to
I'm-
research that issue.
Okay, so we will, I know Rebecca's looking at something, but I'm going to remind everyone, and I put it in an email very kindly this morning, we have 7 days where we receive this book, and that doesn't magically happen. There is a lot of work that goes into trying to put this book together so that every council member up here has the information. You have the ability to reach out, ask questions, find out, do your research, and we really appreciate that. We have 28 departments that doors are open, including my own office. While we do that, and I appreciate your point, but while we do that, Rebecca, would you recommend we move on to the next? Can you find out, or Mr. Risley, what is your suggestion at this point?
Yeah, we'll that issue and get back with the council. We can,
Okay.
but yeah, I don't want to.
Mr. Presley, I'm
Do you
sorry.
recommend tabling this, or?
Not right now. I think right now we can move on to the next appointments, and let's see what he's got to come
Okay.
up with.
Thank you.
Mr. Presley is.
That was going to be my question. Can we approve the two members who don't have a conflict and come back to the third one?
Yeah, we can. We can go ahead and do that and partially do it. Rebecca, your
Yes,
suggestion,
that's
is that
fine.
okay?
So the members would be, for clarification,
Just for clarification, the individuals that are not in conflict are Scott Harris and Alan Wilson.
okay. So the, Mr. Barrera, you had made a motion to appoint everyone. Are you okay with Harris and Wilson, and then Mr. Smith had seconded?
How long has Mr. Vall served?
His appointment date was in 2017.
And, John, how long has he been on the hospital district?
At least that long, I think.
Yeah, he was appointed while I was commissioner. Probably 2017, somewhere in that neighborhood.
But I don't know if this is something you can waive, though.
Well, no, I'm not suggesting that we waive it. All I'm suggesting is that a similar issue was brought up by Mr. Hernandez when we reappointed Mr. Valls, I guess it was 2 years ago. How long were the appointments for 2 years? Yes.
Yes, 2
So,
years.
he brought up that point at the time, and the point and the response that we were given was that that it was acceptable. Now, the challenge that he had, I know, was that he was a board member to London ISD, and then So I know that he resigned at that point. We knew at the time that he was in the hospital district. So I would prefer that we go ahead and reappoint those as they are, and then if we go back and we find that he is ineligible, then at that point he can resign. He can make a choice of which one he wants to serve on.
Mayor, if I can comment on that, you're correct. That was the question, and he later resigned from that. But at the time, the question was an elected position that was a taxing entity, and then also a appointed position that was a taxing entity. Not that they were both appointed. So that was the question. That's the question now that I did not ask 2 years ago, or however long ago it was. But the reason I brought that up today was because I went back and reviewed it, and it occurred to me that that this is something we need to address directly.
Okay, Mr. Presley, can you turn your light off, Mr. Hernandez?
Sorry. Yeah. I just, Miles, I know when I was commissioner, one of the council members appointed me to, or was going to make the appointment for me to serve on the crime control district. And I asked our county attorney, if that was possible, and she came back with an opinion that was from the attorney general that said, you cannot serve on two entities in the state of Texas that have the power to tax. And the crime control district has that, and so does the commissioner's court, obviously. So I know there's some issue, but.
Well, okay.
And Mayor, I guess the question I wanted to ask is, can we separate these three votes? That was my question.
Well, I think that was the suggestion. Mr. Risley, what is your?
We have some prior opinions on it. I'll go through the prior opinions and put it together so that for the council.
I appreciate that.
So do you want to rescind your motion? You're going to keep your motion?
We can obviously vote again. If my motion fails, then we can obviously vote again to do them independently.
Okay. So council members, his motion stands at this point. So it's to reappoint Harris, Valls, and Wilson, not separating.
And if something was to come back, or I guess Miles would come back and say if there's a problem, then we can address it at that point. Is that correct?
He's served for 4 years. He's already served
Well,
for 4
right.
years.
The thing
in
is,
both-
we
in
don't
both-
know
yeah,
right
yeah.
now, and I think that, you know, again, this could have been already taken care of, if there is an issue, but obviously you need some time to go figure that out. Yes, sir.
Yeah, and the issue is that there's a common law theory of incompatibility of office when it's based on two entities that have taxing authority. However, in this case, the Type A has the taxing authority is via sales tax, and then the hospital district is via property tax. So it's a slightly different type of taxing authority. That's why I want to review it in a little more detail rather than just give a quick answer that might be wrong.
Well, the other thing is that Type A and Type B are two different boards. They're both taxing entities. And then at one time or another, of course, I'm not an attorney, but nonetheless.
Okay, Mr. Molina has a comment.
Mayor, I was just going to suggest that, or ask if we can vote on this maybe at the end of the meeting and give Miles some time to get some clarification to us.
Well, that was my point, but who suggested to vote? Somebody suggested, you did?
Just to split it. but-
Right, and I mean, we can split it. At the end of the day, it's all the same. We need to figure out what exactly is what we can and can't do. Right, if you're set on splitting, well, I think we have two different, one is saying split it, and one is saying let's just vote on it as is and then come back to it.
So, Mr. Risley, do you think you'll have an answer by the end of the meeting, or you need more time for that?
I might give me a chance to look at it, and maybe I can have an answer before the meeting's over.
Okay. So would you like to table the appointments as Mr. Molina suggested until we get an answer? And if we don't, I guess we'll have to, we can.
Yeah, I think it's best if we just put it aside.
Okay, we'll just table
for
it
a
then.
little while and allow him to do his due diligence on that. So let's just put that aside and move on to ethics.
Yes, ma'am. Ethics is next. So we're going to table those. Is there a motion to table?
I'll entertain a motion to table.
I would make a motion to move the appointment to the end of the meeting.
Sure.
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Michael? Okay.
Thank you, Michael.
Any opposed, say no. The motion carries.
All right, so next we have the Ethics Commission. There are 3 vacancies, and members to the Ethics Commission are appointed by 2/3 vote of the full council. That's by ordinance, and that would be 6 council members. So we do have 2 members who are seeking reappointment. They are David Bendit and Edward Sample.
Motion to reappoint David Bendit and Edward Sample.
Okay, any further discussion? Can you turn your light off, please?
Oh, I do have a question afterwards.
Go right ahead.
And I apologize, I just noticed this just a minute ago, but the application for Mr. Brandon Croson, I believe his name is, in the application says he works for IBC Bank, but in his resume, it says he works for Coffee Wave, something else. So I didn't know if that would be an issue. I don't know him personally, so I didn't know if that was going to be a concern.
On which board is this?
For the
This is
Ethics Commission?
I believe ethics, right?
Residency is an issue, but place of employment,
If it's not an issue, it didn't correlate, so,
It should be clarified, though.
but I just,
Yeah.
great.
yeah, it's not in terms of appointment. Because residency is really what we're looking at, and
If it's not an issue, it's just something I wanted to point out.
well, it doesn't disqualify him. If the council considers that an issue, we can pull that, but it doesn't disqualify him.
I think
Okay,
it's-
I think there was a clarification that Mr. Molina had mentioned that he worked for Waves Resort that was owned by IBC.
Oh, yes, that's right.
So that might be
There you
the
go.
reason why it just looked a little odd.
Yeah. Right.
But I think that clarified it, and hopefully, we could address that next time.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Address what? Checking employment?
Well, just make sure, from my
Because-
perspective, just make sure something matches. It didn't correlate, but it makes sense now. Thank you.
Make sure something matches.
Like he's saying, basically, if it says IBC and one document says IBC, the other says
Waves.
Coffee Waves.
No, Waves Resort.
Or Waves Resort, I'm sorry. Coffee
Right.
Waves. Waves Resort. Then we make sure we know which is it. Had we not realized or been told that IBC owns Waves. So we know.
Or did until they tore it down.
Or did, right.
Okay, well, when we accept the applications, the person is swearing to the information, right? So we don't, it's not like a background check that we're doing. It's really looking at those main points for these volunteer positions. So that's why I'm just trying to get some clarity, how we don't really vet them that
I guess if someone's looking at the
way.
application and sees two different employers, you would say, well, which is it? And call them and say, we just have a question. You have this listed and that listed. At that point, this gentleman would have said, well, this one owns that one.
Or maybe he has a part-time job.
Or maybe at a part-time job, yeah,
I've done that.
sure.
I think it's
I
irrelevant.
mean, well, it is, but he's just clarifying. Or the council member could.
That would be good. The council member
The
could
council,
check.
let's just go with that. Gil,
Yeah.
I'm gonna go
And I
back to
did.
7 days.
That would be good.
Well, it's something I noticed just
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
the last minute going through it this morning. So that's why,
yeah,
otherwise I would have brought it up
7
sooner.
We're kind of
Days,
checking it on those basic things. We don't go down to the micro
Yeah,
level, but the
yeah.
council members are welcome to call
There
if
you
it's
go.
a concern.
To do that.
So
Okay.
you're saying I'm getting into the weeds is what, no, it's a joke.
Okay,
It's a joke.
moving
It's a joke.
on.
Okay.
Okay.
All right,
Getting
so we
into
have
Stella
Ethics
Exide.
Commission, and there were two, Mr. Hernandez made a motion, Mr. Barrera seconded, to reappoint Bendit and Sample. So is that still, and
Yes.
all aye, right? Okay,
Yes.
so you made the comment after the vote. Okay, great.
Yes.
So now we have one position remaining, who is Sandra Sanchez. I'm sorry, she resigned, so we have one position remaining.
Mayor, I'd like to nominate Laura Commons, or nominate her.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion?
Well,
Okay,
is it-
that's for nomination. None of there's any more nominations.
Oh, I'm
well,
sorry, any other nomination?
because I pointed him out,
Thank you,
I'll
Rebecca.
nominate Brandon Croson.
Okay, all right, so, let's go ahead and,
Okay, so
Start.
and are there any other nominations? Was that it?
Oh.
You want to close?
I'm assuming not. I'm closing nominations,
Okay,
yes.
thank you for closing. Okay, so we have Commons and Croson.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we need to vote on those. Where would you like to start, Mayor?
Sure. Mr.
Mr. Barrera?
Commons?
Commons.
Commons. Commons.
Comments?
Did we not ask Michael? No.
Oh, I guess, and Mr. Hunter does need to
Yeah.
vote. That's true.
Commons.
Well, I'll do
Comments?
Croson because I felt bad for calling him out, so.
Okay. All
Nothing
right.
against Commons.
Okay.
So Ms. Commons is
Congratulations, Ms.
appointed.
Commons, yes.
Okay, so next we have the Island Strategic Action Committee. Okay, there are 3 vacancies representing the following preferred but not required categories, which are 1 commercial property owner, 1 architect or professional engineer, and 1 Mustang Island representative.
For the engineer category, preferred but not required, I'd like to nominate Michael Gonzalez. He is an engineer working for the Corps of Engineers navigation projects. And then on the other categories, going through it, it's a tough list on there, both on the commercial and the Mustang Island property owner with it. I'd like to nominate Eric Evans, even though he doesn't have commercial on the island. He's very involved in commercial with it as the CEO of Bay Area with it. So he brings a lot of expertise. And for the third spot, which is Mustang Island preferred, but Michael Pittman. Again, he doesn't have Mustang Island property, but as I reviewed the applicants, we really don't have anybody that truly qualifies on Mustang.
Okay.
Move nominations cease.
Okay, is there further discussion? Okay, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
No.
The motion passes.
Okay, Mr. Hunter, you voted, right? Yes?
Oh, I'm sorry. Mr.
Ma'am,
Hunter?
I said aye.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, I think that concludes for now our board and committee appointments, which we will move over to consent agenda items 3 through 16. Mr. Moore, we will pull item number 10 for your comment. And does any council member have any other item they would like to pull, 3 through 16?
I'd like to pull item 7, please.
Item
Madam
7?
Mayor.
Okay. Anyone else? Okay, no more being pulled.
Mayor, we're going to pull item 10?
Oh,
Wasn't
I
it-
just did.
You just did? Okay, my
Yes.
apologies.
Yes, I did. Okay, so I'll entertain a motion to approve consent agenda items with the 3 through 16, with the exception of item 7 and 10.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed say no. The motion carries. So item number 7 is an ordinance approving addendum number 1 to lease agreement with Foresight Corpus Christi Golf LLC, a Texas limited liability company, which provides that the city will provide funding up to $2.3 million as included in the capital budget 22-23. Dr. Gonzalez.
Good afternoon, Mayor. Dante
Afternoon.
Gonzalez, Interim Director of Parks and Recreation. And yes, today we're bringing in, this is an ordinance authorizing a 2-year service agreement with Foresight Corpus Christi for capital improvements to the Lozano Golf's property. The plan has been since 2011. It has been to do a complete remodel of both executive course and the practice range with the objective of creating a state-of-the-art facility. This will transform 40 underutilized, mostly non-irrigated space into a beautiful facility for golf. And today with me is Mr. Dan Pedroni. He has a presentation if you guys have any questions.
Okay. Mr. Smith.
Well, thank you. I'd like to hear Mr. Pedrati's presentation. I think this is a real good news item. We skipped over it last time, but I'd like to see the financial side. This is being financed through certificates of obligation, right, with it. So
Yes, sir.
if we could just, Executive 9, explain what you're going to do. I was thinking of a par 3, but you're saying it's not. But just give us and everybody watching what you're planning to do, and the financial assumptions behind it.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, it's a pleasure to be here with you today. There wasn't much discussion last time. I timed it, I think it was 15 seconds. So, again, as I hope many of you know, I'm a native son. Got the privilege to come back to Corpus Christi and help with the golf some years ago after we were successful in winning an RFP. Made a pretty bold offer to the city, and the basis of that was real simple. If we can get the golf courses turned around and make money, we'll split it with you. And if they lose money, we'll take it. So I think at the time it was a fairly easy decision for the council to make within the idea of privatizing things. And back then and all along, we have continued to look at this 40 acres in the corner closest to Del Mar College and the state school that's been grossly underutilized. There was once upon a time there were 9 holes. They're mostly par 3s and 4s. It's not a regulation length golf facility. It was never irrigated properly. The funds weren't ever available to really bring it forward. We've always looked at that as a next great thing after we proved to the city and to the people of Corpus Christi that we would provide them a great golf product. It's only now, in working with the city manager and his team, that it makes a huge amount of sense. What we're proposing just at the outset, before I get into the presentation, Councilman Smith and the rest of you, is what will be a state-of-the-art, brand-new 9-hole facility and a very extensive practice facility, the likes of which doesn't exist in the coastal bend anywhere. So instead of just a driving range, we have what's called a short game area where you can work on getting the ball from close to the green, onto the green, out of sand traps, out of grass bunkers, out of all different situations that you actually face when you're playing the game. I would call them the scoring opportunities versus just hitting the ball long and hoping for the best. You can really dial in your game. We've learned quite a bit through the years, and our company, Foresight Golf, is very, very committed to junior golf. This definitely speaks to junior golf. And by junior golf, I don't mean high schoolers as much as I mean middle schoolers and even before middle schoolers. So the facility itself, if we could get to the diagram right quick, this has the information. I hope you all have the presentation. Is that correct? Okay.
Yes.
So this sort of details what the facility will look like. Again, it's underutilized acreage at this time. The future of this will be fully irrigated, what we call in the industry wall to wall. So it will be grass from the edge to the edge and everything in between, rather than having a tee box and then a green that are green and then hoping for the best rain-wise and otherwise to get the rest of the grass grown in. This will be a lush, maintainable, consistently sustainable set of golf. Frankly, if you want to go out and play golf in 2 hours rather than 4 or 5, which is always hard to squeeze into your schedule, this is actually the ticket. This is the thing that you would go play. And again, we'll start juniors on there. We know that the seniors like to play a 9-hole layout like this. This is mostly par 3s and par 4s for those of you that play. But again, the practice facility, I mean, if you're familiar with the golf array in Corpus Christi in general, there really isn't a driving range. There have been a couple of public startups, and some of them made it, and most of the time they really don't. This practice facility is going to be extraordinary. The model for this is actually in San Antonio, and now it's popping up all over the country. It's a very comprehensive practice facility, like I said, and then a short game of golf. San Pedro and San Antonio this year is going to, this is mind-boggling. On their 9 holes, which is all par 3s, 52,000 rounds of golf. In our projections, which we'll get to, we're projecting about 17.5, but trust me, that's way under what we actually expect. We just wanted to make sure the numbers would work at a lower number. If I could go to the next slide. These are the parts and pieces of it. Happy to walk you through that. And the next slide, perhaps. Here's the numbers. So right now, the golf course does, in its current state, about 7,000 rounds a year. We get $10 for some of those and $4.50 for others. Not much money. It doesn't generate, and the folks that gravitate towards it again are juniors and seniors. By the way, in Foresight Golf's program, if you're an adult and you bring a junior, and that's someone all the way up to 18 years old, the junior plays free when you pay a green fee. We were able to get permission to bring that program here, but we do that on all of the courses that we own and operate, and those that we manage as well. You can see the stark difference between the existing facility now and what we're projecting. We're at 14,500 rounds. I have another projection that we've updated since this that puts us at 17.5, but I'll spare you that for now. It doesn't actually change the bottom line much. And then we added a line on there because we're very, very hopeful that we're working with the Type B board and with the city manager's leadership that we can get another $500,000 to light this thing. And once it's lit, it's not Top Golf, and I'm not going to tell you that it's Top Golf, but it's the closest thing the Coastal Bend will know to Top Golf. It is an after-hours executive play, business person play. I worked hard all day long. I want to go hang out with my buddies or my gal pals or whomever and enjoy the rest of the evening out here. We also believe strongly that in that program that we will extend stays in Corpus Christi and that we will create stays, visitors that come in for that facility. I've heard folks in Corpus, and again, born and raised, I know this perspective, that's just not gonna work. Well, at San Pedro, which is nothing more than what this is, 52,000 rounds of golf, that until they built their lighted, all par 3, 9-hole course, all they had was a practice range. So We have the championship length course, the Gabe Lozano Golf Course. We intend to add this with your help. And the beauty of it, again, Councilman Smith, is that it doesn't add but nominally to our current expense set. With the lights, we're going to be extending hours. Clearly, we'll have additional staffing hours. But as far as the people that work there and the equipment that's necessary to maintain the golf course and everything else that goes with keeping it green, lush, and attractive to the players, it's pretty nominal additional costs. So we consider this absolutely found money. And
Which the city of Corpus Christi will receive half of that.
exactly half, yes, sir.
So it basically pays for itself.
2.5 years. Well, I'm sorry, 10 years.
Yeah.
On this projection.
On
Add the lights, it's more like
Yeah.
3.5 or 4.
I guess that's what I wanted to see, that as we're doing this, we get a payback. And not the community gets a great asset, but we also get a payback as a city. This is a service we're providing that really is not, it's not costing the taxpayers anything.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a self-supporting operation.
Yeah.
And we actually make money off it, so. Yeah.
To our perspective, we wouldn't ask otherwise if we didn't believe that with great conviction. It's not our corporate style. We don't act like a corporation anyway. We're just a little bitty boutique golf operator with a big heart and a lot of hard work. But enough about me. We think we legitimately believe, especially what we've gotten back from Andrew Peterson over at the Alamo City Golf Trail, that these numbers are half what it might do. So.
Wow. Did you have a comment, Mr.
I did,
Simon?
yeah. I just want to point out that Mr. Pedrati is another great example of top-notch leadership, and the city did a great job over 10 years ago when they entered into a contract with him and his team. I had the chance about a year and a half ago, to tour the golf courses and meet his leadership team, and we get a great partner in their firm.
Thank you
So
very much.
yes, so we're glad to recommend for over a year now this investment in the Lozano Golf Course. The city hasn't, I think in over a decade or maybe even longer, made any investment in our golf courses that we own. And then the last comment is the nighttime lighting. We are going to go to the Type B board in this next meeting coming up. And what we didn't have in the first meeting is some financial projection. We had Mr. Pedrati's, but we actually had Dr. Lee from the university develop some projections on the incremental amount of employment that would be caused because of the nighttime lighting, and the amount of revenue that would be generated. And the Type B boards, Mr. Harris is here, the president, so I'm glad he's getting a chance to listen to this. They'll get to see the information that the $500,000 that we're requesting for nighttime lighting will have a significant financial return on investment to our sales tax and hut tax and overall
That's
jobs
wonderful.
created. So we're positive about that recommendation. We feel good about it, and the facts will show it from Dr. Lee from the university. So that'll be coming forward. That'll be, I think, one of the first nighttime golf opportunities in the Gulf Coast.
The
right?
only. I mean,
The only.
I take it back. In Far, Texas, right next to McAllen there is a Top Golf, a scaled-down version of Top Golf. The city footed most of the bill for that, and Top Golf reinvented their facility. If you aren't all familiar with that, it's a remarkable facility, and most of them are about $25 to $30 million. I think that one was somewhere between $15 and $18 million, and the city fronted most of that. We're not asking for that. But the other thing I think, Peter, that would be worth adding is we'll probably write a check to the city this year out of the city's half share without this of north of $500,000. Wow. And when we came here, it was a minus 350. So, and again, not trying to pat myself on the back, pat y'all on the back for having the foresight.
Well, but, pun intended. But actually, you should, Mr. Pedrati, and I'm very grateful. I think we're downplaying this a little bit. I think we have, so thank you. I mean, meaning another item. This is an investment. If we believe in our city, if we believe we will continue in an era of new progress, that we will be, we will be a top tier. We are a top tier. I don't like saying we will be or we can be. We are. And we are making so many decisions here with this council that continue to put us there. So thank you for pulling the item, because this is a very good news item. And this is something we're going to come back to, and I'm sure you'll be right there saying, I told you. And here it is. So it's wonderful. This is exactly what we want to see. Right after Brett Otting just gave us, the report you heard him give us in regards to, visit Corpus Christi. So we're very proud. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
How long have you been with the company?
Well, I started it.
Oh, you
so-
started the company. Okay,
I
that
was
was
the
my
first one
next
in.
question. It's yours.
I'm hoping to be the last, well, maybe not the last one out, but there is a picture, it might even be the next slide, where you can see a lighted, there you go.
Oh, right.
So that's San Pedro in San Antonio.
This is very, very exciting.
And it's a little hard to see, but absent those trees, that parking lot is full, and this is probably 10:30, 11 o'clock at night.
Wow.
And with Brett's help, if you noticed in his presentation, there was not a single picture of golf. The CVB is not accustomed to presenting the golf because we as Corpus Christians haven't been that proud of it.
Right.
We're trying to give us all good reason for that.
And the other picture soon to be will be a beautiful marina. Mr. Pesley.
Yeah, great presentation. I'm really excited about this, even though I don't play golf. I realize the number of people who do and how important this will be. Will this, and I tried to look through it, but I couldn't find it. Is this going to include like a new clubhouse or something to go along with that?
I'm really pleased that you asked that question.
Good. There we go.
In watching the Type B board proceedings from the last meeting, there are a number of golfers on the board. I think there were 3 out of the 5. And the topic became, yes, we can spend this money, but what we need is clubhouses. They're from the 1960s.
Yeah.
I'm from the 1960s, so I can relate to that. We would really like to engage with council and the city manager's office and look forward to that as the next opportunity. If you want to put Corpus Christi's golf amenity on the map and really fold it in with the CVB's efforts and really grow that aspect of things, the reality is we need to do clubhouses. That's very expensive, so we haven't asked for that yet. But we would like to. We would really like to engage in that discussion. Perhaps do some preliminary design work so that we can all visualize what that might mean. But at the Oso Beach Golf Club, if you built what amounts to a 2-story building like we built in the city of Laredo at the Max on the mighty Rio Grande, we were the city's representative on that project and then ran it for a number of years afterwards. But we built a 2nd story. And the 2nd story had a commanding view of the Rio Grande in Mexico. Here, you would have a commanding view for your visitors and your local charities and other folks that are doing golf events and quinceañeras and weddings and all that sort of stuff back over the Oso Bay towards Texas A&M Corpus Christi. And I think it would be a spectacular opportunity to seat people and serve them dinner and raise money.
Yeah.
There's not enough charitable golf tournaments in Corpus Christi yet because you can only go on Mondays at the country club, and there really isn't another golf facility that could suit that, but we could. Together, we could do that.
I think the clubhouse is an integral part of making it a success. So
Yeah.
we really ought to put that on our radar.
Yeah.
We wanted to get to a point with the golfers where we have their undying support, and just like Brett was presenting the 9s and the 9.7s, all the rest of that, we constantly ask for feedback from our players, constantly. We get very high marks, and I'm not trying to pat myself on the back. I'm proud to say that they say that. We don't. So.
Great, thank you. Mr.
Yeah,
Zanoni.
Mayor, I was just going to say, and Councilman Pusley, when I toured, that was one of the things, that's one of the kind of deficits in the golf operations. The company, Foresight's doing a great job with what they have, the clean, the gift shop was rearranged to get more merchandise in there at the Lozano one, but the dated, and they're, no matter how much you try to keep them up, the dated. So it's something we can look for this upcoming bond program, potentially, the 2022 bond program for design services or what have you, but that's one funding option. There's others as well, but it's on our radar, and we'll work with the company and the council on some options.
Well,
And we
like
love
any
that
other great investment, you know, if they're gonna write us a check for $500,000, maybe we ought to plow that right back into what we're doing over there. I mean, it all comes back to you in the long run.
We have an arrangement very similar to that, Peter. I don't know if I told you, with Harris County. We actually operate a 36-hole facility there, wherein we own the improvements on top of county land. So we have a land lease arrangement with them, but the county has always taken our annual payments and put them into what they call the improvement fund and let it build to a point. When Harvey hit, the improvement fund saved us completely. The commissioner was allowed us to have access to the funds and rebuild everything that we needed and get back into business. Otherwise, we would have been toast.
There you go.
So,
Well, thank you, Mr. Pedrati.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate your time.
thank you all very
And
much.
we're excited about it. And last question, how are you related to Laureen?
To Laureen?
Are you?
Yes, that's my sister-in-law.
Oh, okay.
And I married a girl across the street from her, so, yeah.
Oh,
And Cerny was Joyce and Cerny.
a small
Pedrati.
world. She's a friend.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
I think I've heard that down. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Motion to
Thank you
approve?
very much.
That's my father. And I'm the father of Dan the third, so we go on and on.
Right. Thank you very much for your time
Thank you.
today. Yes.
So I made a
will
motion to approve?
entertain-
Second.
All right, we're going to give it to Greg. It's his district.
His district.
Is it your district? Oh, Greg, we're taking it away from you.
It's okay. I moved for approval last time, so.
Then I'll
Why don't-
second.
Yeah, Gil, why don't you?
I'll second it then. I'll give it up.
Why don't you give it, Greg pulled it.
I'd like to call the question.
Step thing. All right, we have a motion in a second. I'm trying to be nice here. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say no. The motion carries. Okay, and then the second item that was pulled was item number 10, a motion authorizing 2 3-year supply agreements for the purchase of hot mix asphalt concrete.
Thank
Hi, Mr. Mata.
you, Council, Mayor. I'm Roland Mata. I'm the interim the interim Public Works Director. We're going to go ahead and start on the PowerPoint presentation. Sorry, a little bit nervous. Some of the materials that we use, the asphalt materials, is for our rehabs, some of the basin pavements, some of the potholes, and some of the utility cuts. Next presentation. This is a breakdown of what we are projecting for 22, 23, and 24. You can see we're column 2, which is our rehab. We're projecting to use about 29,000 tons worth of materials. Potholes about 5,000, utility cuts about 1,500, and then basin payments, and the total area that we have is about 343,000 square yards of a total of 37,000 tons per year. As you've noticed, it's either a projection going higher or lower, just depending on what activities we're going to be doing. Next, please. During the process, early March, we started doing the solicitation for the annual contract for asphalt. We did a bid conference in March as well, and bids were due back in April. It was for a 3-year contract with the options of 2 years additional. We received 2 bids, one from Bay, one from Haas, and the third part to that is we did a bid analysis on the lane miles that we could conduct with the funding or the bids that were turned in. Next page. Basically, when we looked at the 2018, we went back and took a look at the 2018, and that was the previous contract. And then we looked at the 2021 contract. Our quantities for the 3-year contract was 90,000, and then the quantities for the 21 was 105,000. The unit prices between both of them, between Bay and Haas in 2018, one was 76.72, the other one was 79.50. In the 2021, Bay came in at 72.81, which is a 5% decrease. Haas Anderson came in at $108 per ton, which is about a 35.8% increase. Next, please. We wanted to do one thing, is to verify with our legal department whether or not if the city could opt to increase or decrease quantities and the quantities of tonnage, total tonnage in the RFP, and we got that verified that it did indeed have that written on the bid specifications. Now, the analysis between the 70-30 and the 90-10, we made several iterations of what percentages or what quantities could we do. If we took the 70-30, it would only give us 152 miles. If we did the 90-10, it would give us 163 miles, a difference of about 11 miles in difference with the same amount of money. This is just materials. This was just constitute us doing the work and in-house doing the repairs. So if we did 100%, it would be 168.5 miles. One of the things that we opt to, next page, please, is we wanted to make a staff recommendation between the 90 and 10. We made a staff recommendation of 90-10 because it was only a 3% difference between one contract to the one percentage or one recommendation to the other. This would give us the best results that we could find. Okay. Any questions?
Questions? Mr. Hernandez.
Yeah, and I want to say thank you for your presentation. It is I remember having this conversation with Richard. It was one of the last conversations I had with him before he passed away, on why he split this the way he did, and it just based on the cost information. If you go to the slide where you have the 72 and the 108,
yes, sir.
It made sense, and the reason why the 10% was in there was because you never know when something might happen. An explosion might happen at Bay, or a barge might hit a gas line next to their facility, or whatever it may be. So you always wanted to have a backup, and that's why they split it 90-10 instead of doing 100% with Bay. So he explained it very well, and I wanted to relay that information in that discussion that I had with Richard. So, thank you.
Okay. Are there any other questions? Okay, I will go ahead and open public comment. So anyone, Mr. Moore, from the public who would like to make comment, please come forward.
Madam Mayor, Council.
Just move that little microphone over to you if you would. There you go.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm going to ask you guys today, ladies and gentlemen, to not award this contract in any way, shape, or form. I will advise you that I have filed a protest on this based on several details. I would encourage you to request that from city staff. The protest, my name is Randall Moore with HAC Materials, and my address is 664 Shoreline Circle in Port Aransas, Texas. So the basis of award was clearly called out. Lowest responsible bidder split on a 70-30 split. Yes, the quantities, the award, the city reserved the right to adjust quantities of the RFP, the request for bids. There was one single set of quantities. They did not reserve the right to change the evaluation of the bid or the basis of award. The basis of award and the quantities are two separate items. They reserved to change the quantities. There was not two sets of quantities which they could modify. There was one set of quantities. And you change that to changing the basis of award. And there are several other details that you can review, but the bottom line is this, is you are trying to bid a commodity product on a 3-year product, or on a 3-year basis. And you're justifying this or the staff is justifying this by using the PPI, Producer Price Index. So if I'm going to enter into a contract where the Producer Price Index says whether my price can increase or decrease, and furthermore, where I have the opportunity for a price increase only once a year, and the city has a opportunity for a price decrease every single month. I need to look back and see what the history of the PPI is, right, for this specific item. For this specific item, look at worst-case scenario, in a time that was much like today in the run-up to the market collapse after the real estate boom, in the 3-year period, the PPI for this product went up 97.3%. Our price can only go up 25% by government code and by the RFP. In a 1-year period, it went up 46%. Again, we would only be able to recover an increase of 25% and only once a year. In 1 3-month period, it went up 24%. So you have an unreasonable expectation and you got a disappointing result. That's usually what happens. Our bid is high because your requirements of your contract are unreasonable. The PPI for this commodity is not capable of addressing the fluctuations of this commodity product during the time period of which you've required. Thank you.
Mr. Moore, thank you for your comment. Is there anyone else who has public comment on item number 10? If you'll please state your name and address, sir. If you'll please state your name and address when, yeah. Well, I forget to remind people. I'm sorry, Mr. Moore.
Yeah, my name's Darrell Haas. I'm a resident of Mathis, Texas. I'm at 6963 FM 666. I just wanted to kind of summarize what I see here, and that is city staff is proposing to award a supply agreement contract for hot mix based upon quantities that it did not bid. That's a fact, okay? The bid conditions were that the low bidder gets 70% of the quantity and the second low bidder gets 30%. Staff is now proposing 90-10 split. That's a fact. Staff implies that our price increase versus Bay's price decrease demonstrates that there is something nefarious going on with our bid. Maybe we are smarter than them, or maybe they're smarter than us. Who knows? The truth is that neither one of us knows what's going to happen. We tried multiple times to get the city to move away from a lengthy 3-year contract, and we got crickets. Staff would tell you that at the end of each year, the supplier can request a review of price data through some sort of economic evaluation. We do not believe a supplier can rely on this assurance. The cost of hot mix is very volatile. Asphalt, which makes up 5% of the total weight of material, has varied in the past by up to $400 a ton. That would be $20 per ton of hot mix. Aggregate cost is also volatile. You cannot get price protection for 1 year, much less 3 years. Aggregates also require a high cost for transportation, as all aggregates come from at least 75 to 150 miles away, and all by rail. Transportation cost relies heavily on the cost of fuel and insurance. This supply agreement was bid on April 6, 21. That's 5 months ago. It will take an additional month or two for agreement execution and time start. Thus, total length of time from the actual bid date to the end of this agreement will be at least 3.5 years, further increasing the cost risk for the supplier. Finally, staff has proposed a second paving train or third paving train, I can't keep track of it, in their next year's budget. I think they said this would double the city's consumption. Apparently, no. I say apparently you did approve the paving train in the budget. That means the cost of this supply agreement would be greatly inadequate and out of date. I just don't see how we can agree to accept an agreement that we did not bid. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Haas. Is there anyone else that would like to make public comment on item number 10? I'll go ahead and close public comment then. And we'll have some questions or comments from the council. Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Mr. Risley, the fact that we are kind of changing after the fact, what, in purchasing on there, if what they're saying, we're going from 70-30 to 90-10, and that does affect quantities greatly. So is that proper procurement practice that we can change after we've gone out for bid?
We don't have an obligation to purchase a specific amount of any of an item. I mean, we did not construct this as a guarantee of a specific amount. Well, but it does not prohibit us from executing a contract with the lowest responsible bidder and simply executing a contract with that lowest responsible bidder.
There was language in the RFP that allowed us to do what we're recommending today, just to add on to what Miles said. It's not that there was actual language that said we could do what Miles just said in the RFP.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Councilman Barrera.
Thank you, Mayor. So filing a protest does what? Mr. Moore indicated he's filing a protest. So what does that do? What does that mean?
Filing a protest initiates the process of officially objecting to the proposed results of the bid, some bidding irregularity.
Okay, and then? I mean, then at that point, so he files a protest, and then he has to turn to us to tell him. I don't understand what's the purpose of filing a protest then. You haven't explained it to me. I mean,
it allows the bidder to put his concerns into the public, but also more importantly to present his concerns officially to the purchasing officer, so the purchasing officer can determine the validity of those specific concerns.
and what's the result of that? Are we awarding it before that's been, are we awarding the contract prior to the result of that conclusion? Is that the recommendation today? Because he said that he's filed a protest. So I'm just wondering, we're recommending an award, and if he's filed a protest, then how is that typically managed?
The bid protest was just filed last week.
Okay.
Josh, can you address that?
Mayor, Council, thank you. Yes, we received the bid protest on Friday last week, and so we are under review right now. I've been meeting with legal to address all of the concerns that Haas Anderson has brought forward. We're looking at every one of the details he has and preparing a response.
So once again then, so what's the purpose? I mean, we've already waited since, go ahead.
The
Miles.
notice of the award.
No, it appeared that Miles was going to say something. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to point out, clearly you have the authority. You have the authority to execute a contract to purchase asphalt from the lowest responsible bidder.
Oh, okay, I'm not denying that.
And that I believe isn't even technically protested. The only protest is whether or not the second low bidder has a right to a 30% contract.
Okay, but you're recommending that we award the contract prior to the conclusion of this protest.
I'm saying that it would not be illegal for you to award a contract to the lowest responsible bidder.
Well, obviously, staff has made a recommendation. Correct?
Yes, sir. The agenda process is longer than the time it took to get in front of you guys. It was only, like I said, on Friday this last week that we received notice of the protest, but it had already been on your agendas.
And when did you put the notice out of the bidding results?
The bidding results were posted within 30 days of the
What
close.
was the date? What, was it 2 months ago?
In May.
In May? So the bidders both knew the intended results in May?
Yes, sir.
And just filed the protest Friday?
Yes, sir.
So at no time did they voiced their concerns during that period. Apparently, they were silent since May, and and so now, just on a whim, on Friday, they submitted a protest.
Yes, sir.
Right. We had conversations with them, Councilman, along the way, but nothing formally was submitted until Friday.
Okay, all right. That's
Yeah,
what
we had
I'm-
made notice of our intent just prior to them receiving, but we were in discussions
So
with
you
them
made, you
before
made
then.
notice of, I guess that's the whole thing. You know, I mean, obviously, one is lower than the other. That's all. I just want to make sure that we have a fair process, you know, that we're just disclosing whatever the situation is. And that, you know, once again, as I said in the past, you know, being involved as, you know, an advocate for minority business, there's oftentimes, and being an individual that does a lot of work with public agencies, there's sometimes that their information is not particularly clear. And it's very difficult for us as vendors to go to a public agency that has much more a legal department of which to make the decision to be able to protest, and you wonder what are the consequences associated with it. So I'm just trying to ensure that we've done everything in our power to make sure that, because then I've been in that position myself where I've waited to the last minute to make a decision because of the fact that I think I'm going to get to the point where we're going to make a compromise. And so that's the thing. You have to look at it from a standpoint because they're absorbing all the risk. Okay, so I understand where you're going now. I don't know that I'm entirely comfortable. I want to comment that I don't know how, I guess in Miles' language, there's no yes or no answers.
That's why they're attorneys. Rebecca, can we hear back?
It's posted on the agenda, so if the council's okay with having him come up again, he can.
It's up to you, Mayor.
It's up to you.
Yes, you can come in. Come up.
Beginning in April, I began communicating with procurement to determine if this contract was going to be awarded on a 70-30 split as advertised. I was communicating whether it was going to be awarded at all. I have in my protest, which I encourage each of you to read before you make any motion on this, all the documentation where I received no response from the city. And I repeatedly contacted them, and I provided that documentation. And it was not till the agenda was posted for this meeting that I know that this contract was going to be awarded. And therefore, that is when I immediately contacted Mr. Zanotti's chief of staff and asked if the intent was that. And because I was not being responded to through procurement, and that all that documentation is present as backup to my protest, I encourage you to read it.
Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Okay, I'm not done yet.
You're not done?
Yeah, just one other question.
Okay.
And it doesn't really apply to this. I know, I guess from my old public transportation days, when we purchased an item that had such volatility, we basically, we had a determination of what, well, that was the whole thing. We purchased fuel, and there was a rack rate. And the whole thing is that, okay, what is it that, how are we going to be able to procure that item based on such a volatile purchase? And some came in basically under whatever, they would come in below the market by a certain percentage, they would agree to that. But it wasn't as to where, because there was no organization that would allow us to purchase fuel for a three-year contract, 2 one-year options because of the volatility. So I'm just curious as to where, is this the practice of, that every community follows where we have a volatile purchase that, we have a volatile purchase and then we try to exercise? I think that's one other reason you may not get any competition from other communities because you're asking somebody to hold their price for 3 years, you know? And if they're using it just as a loss leader, it just depends. I mean, I have a saying, you can't lose money on every job and make it up in volume. And so what happens is that you're pricing out certain individuals to be able to you're pricing out the market, so that way you only have one group of individuals, and that undermines economic development. So anyway, my question is,
Yeah.
do other markets procure it that way?
Yeah, we do. So Roland can speak to San Antonio, where he came from, but there we did 2-year street contracts, so we locked in a 2-year agreement for that reason, that it had a beneficial price point to the city. I will tell you that Kevin Stone from Bay has confirmed to me in writing that he'll guarantee that price. He has no issue with that. So the 3-year price that they gave us, and then the final comment, and we'll see if Roland has something to add as well. I forgot the train of thought, but I guess that's it. That's the final comment. Is that San Antonio and others do these 2-year agreements? The final comment is this: is that in our city, and Roland will have to correct me if I'm not right on this, but there's only 2 producers of asphalt. There's only 2, so there's no small business. There's really nobody else. It's just those 2.
Well, the thing is
Yeah.
I've been approached by others that have basically said that it's difficult. That's the reason there's only 2 here, because it's very difficult to do business with the city of Corpus Christi. Granted, you got here as fast as you could, and I really appreciate it, the professionals that you've put together to be able to do that. So, but once again, we're recommending a 3-year contract with 2 1-year options, when you just told me that San Antonio does 2 years.
Well, they do. That was on street construction, not necessarily materials. Roland probably
So
knows.
materials?
What was the materials term?
The last time we bid in San Antonio, we had a 3-year plus 2-year. With the language of what we call the PPI, which is basically an index that you can come back to the city and request that you want to do a price increase. Now, the city has the option to look at and review it again and see whether or not if that can be done. That is part of this contract as well, that we place that language in there, that anytime that the manufacturer of any item could come back and say, wait a minute, because of fuel expense or because of transportation expense, whatever the circumstances, those could come back and we could look at those again.
Okay, Roland, you take good care of me in my district. You take really good care of me in my district, and so did Richard. God rest his soul, and your team is just fantastic. But now, that just leads me to another question. Then, if that's the case, well then, why don't I just bid $50? Because then I'm going to be able to come back to you and request this. I'm going to have to come back to you and talk to you about the volatility of the market, because then that just means that I mean, I don't know. I'm not a subject matter expert. You are, but based on the answer that you're giving me, then I can come back and request
Yes.
an increase because I have to justify what the market charges.
Yeah, and we don't, and the city doesn't have to accept what the manufacturer is proposing. That's always been the case in San Antonio. We would always look at what they proposed, and we would have to justify that, and then we could only look at that as such a narrow. Many a times it was approved, many a times it was denied.
So if it's denied, then we go back to the second bidder, and then what if we exceed the 10%?
Again, it's one of those situations where, like you mentioned, it's very volatile. It could increase, it could decrease, and we had that before in years.
But my question is, and I particularly don't like to do this. I don't. You guys know I don't. Okay. So I'm just confused. So if Bay says, okay, I'm sorry, we're not going to honor that price, we can't do it, then, and they don't hold to it, so then we go back to the other bidder that's charging us the $108. Is that what our option is?
No, it's not an option. Based on prior work with the company, they'll only give us 10%. We've tried that last year to buy some additional material from them, but after they reached their 30%.
Oh, no. I'm just saying, if they said no, the price is way beyond our original proposal, we're not going to sell you anymore.
Are you talking about Bay or?
Talking about Bay.
Right, if they don't do that, we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. But Kevin Stone, the chief operating officer, has told me in writing that he guarantees his prices.
Okay, well, as long as it's guaranteed in writing, it's just that. But all I'm saying is that are there any penalties for not meeting?
Well, I mean, Bay knows they're a partner of the city, just as Haas is, and Haas is doing most of our major work right now, Ocean Drive, Ayers, the Park Road 22 bridge, so they're an extreme important partner for the city, just as Bay is. So the companies know we have a.
Once again, I'm a little guy, and I just look at it from a standpoint of that. Once again, I just right now, and I'm not a subject matter expert. Once again, I'm not a subject matter expert. I'm just asking for clarification.
Right.
And you know, giving a reference to a business owner, basically based on their word and what they're going to accomplish, doesn't really basically make a statement with regard to the procurement process of which we have. And that's what I'm asking. I just don't have a whole lot of confidence. You haven't been able to convince me of a lot of confidence in our procurement process. So I'll leave it at that. My questions have been answered.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Presley?
Yeah, I share some of Councilman's concerns. Unfortunately, Richard and our chief engineer visited with me. It's been at least a month and a half ago about this issue, and I came in, and unfortunately I've slept a couple of times since we had this discussion, but there are some real concerns here that number one, if there is a protest filed with respect to the bidding process, it's always been my understanding that the person filing the protest then gets an opportunity to come before the governing body and present their case. Is that not true?
If they're granted the ability to protest, the first section of the clause says that we have to accept the protest, and that's what we've been under review to do now.
Okay. So you haven't accepted the protest?
I have not formally accepted the protest yet.
But you'd have to find very extenuating circumstances not to accept that protest.
We have an informal bid protest policy, Councilman. So we review the protest, we respond. If we find there's need for an informal hearing, we do have one. It's not before the council, it's before city staff.
Okay. And then they have the option of asking that it go before the governing board?
No, it's handled by city. It's handled internally by city staff.
Does that put us in line with what state law says? He's shaking his head, and you've got a question mark on your face.
State law in this type of does not require a bid protest procedure in this type of instance.
Why not?
You'd have to ask the legislators why not.
It's always been my understanding that the protest, I went through a couple of those where they protested, and we had to hear their case at the next regularly scheduled meeting.
The bidders always have an opportunity, even if no bid protest procedure is laid out, to protest a bid and come in and state their case, which is what they've done in this case. They have come into the governing body and stated why they believe their bid protest is valid and they should be awarded a contract for 30% of the asphalt. Okay. They have asserted their right to make that case to you and have done so.
Okay. So if you find, after you've reviewed this, that they're correct, then where are we at?
Well, I can go ahead and take this time now to tell you that in review with the proceeding that we're not going to accept the protest, and I just haven't had a chance. I didn't want to air this here. I was going to reach out directly, but since this got brought up for discussion, I think it's important to mention it to you all now. That we've looked through all of the points for consideration that they've provided, and I will have a formal response for them on the items they brought up, but unfortunately at this time it doesn't warrant a petition.
Okay. Well, I guess, and you know, I don't know how anybody, even the gentleman you mentioned with Bay, I don't know how anybody could guarantee a price for 3 years now on anything. I mean, we all know, we've all seen the volatility of the markets with respect to price increases for everything. So I think it's inherently unfair to the bidding process when we say we're going to accept this bid, but whoever we award the bid to then can come back to the city and say, well, wait a minute, prices have gone up, my fuel has increased, the cost of my rocks have increased, the cost of my, everything has increased, so I'm going to have to issue a protest, not a protest, but I'm going to have to tell the city I'm going to have to increase this bid, and we'll have to review that and grant them that increase.
I mean, a contractor can always request an increase. It would go to the city to decide whether or not we'd be willing to do that, given certain extenuating circumstances, but and budget permitting. But if they don't, we reserve the right then to go to market to try to find the product if they cannot provide it to us. So we are making sure that if they are unable to meet the terms in which we have agreed, that we can go back out to market. And
No, I understand that.
Yeah.
But I'm just telling you, that's not always the inherently fair process. And so I'll end this by saying, we'll make a vote here in a minute, but this has been convoluted enough that I may not vote against it, but it provides some uneasiness about how I feel about the process. And I think the next go-around, we need to be a little more clear about how we're doing this.
Let me clarify that last answer. You cannot just amend a price simply because a bidder wants his price amended. When somebody turns in a price, it's a price. You can enter into a new contract with somebody, a completely new contract outside of the bidding process that would provide for a different price. That would be a new contract. That would not be a change of the price. You want one sacrosanct thing is you can't just change a price that was the result of competitive
So what
bidding.
you're saying is that the low bidder that we award this bid to in 6 months from now could say, hey, calf rope, I can't do this, and so I'm going to ask for a new contract.
We did not guarantee a specified amount of business to the low bidder, so you would see, so we have had those situations and haven't had a strong basis upon which to file a lawsuit against a bidder who backed out.
Okay.
Thank you, Councilman. Councilman Smith.
Thank you. Miles, on the severability, not severability, but cancellation on there. The city can cancel, can the contractor cancel the contract?
You've got it's not really a cancellation of a contract. It's you run into a situation where the contractor has not guaranteed necessarily a specified amount of product for a specified amount of time in response to our guarantee of that.
So if they've got a contract with us, they're not contractually bound to provide. They can arbitrarily just not provide.
We haven't guaranteed, say, 1 million tons of X, so there becomes you have a potential consideration issue. But we'd have to look at each of those situations on a case-by-case basis.
Well, I kind of agree with Councilman Pusley. There's some issues in here, some contractual issues to me. When you bid 70-30 and you come back 90-10 on a quantity-based bid, even though there's plenty of language in there varying the quantity, but when you're putting that pencil together and scratching it, you're putting it together based on the quantities that are given to you. Not talking to your legal department and say, well, we can switch.
That's not technically a contractual issue. It may be an issue of representation, but no contract has been entered at the point that you have that the statement's been made 70-30 versus 90-10.
And the comment was made that they haven't reached out to council really about this. Councilman Pusley, I guess Public Works has. Can a contractor reach out to council when a bid is pending?
They do a representation that they should have representation in this case that provides otherwise.
Yeah.
They sign a form when they submit their bid that they will not contact people beyond the procurement officer until the public meeting, which they are allowed to speak at the public meeting in public comment to council members.
So the
Just to
fact that-
clarify, I didn't speak to any, only
hold-
person I spoke to was staff.
Hold on, let's go in order here.
Yeah, so the fact that they haven't reached out to us is really a legal requirement then? They can't?
I wouldn't necessarily say it's a legal requirement, but it is a form in the bid that they agree to not reach out to you. They're supposed to reach out to the purchasing staff so that they all get consistent answers.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mr. Zanoni.
Excuse me. Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to add to Councilman Pusley's question that both companies, Haas and Bay, in the past 3 years have kept to their pricing. So there's been volatility in transportation costs. Think of the extreme weather event. There's been petroleum prices are at an all-time high, but they both have kept to their prices. So that's just one point to note. And then this is really the reason why the staff did this is to put more value to the taxpayer. So we can do 11 more miles of street
Right.
reconstruction based on these prices.
Right.
It's about $1 million difference. And the RFP clearly stated that quantities could be changed. So I just want to point those facts out.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mr. Risley.
Yeah, there was a question about purchasing oil products, gasoline, and when we don't do this type of bid when we're purchasing especially volatile items like oil or gasoline. We use a percentage of the OPUS, or a number of cents or dollars off of the OPUS price, which is an aggregator of the prices in the region, and it does go up and down.
Mr. Zanoni, do you have your light? Mr. Presley? Okay.
Mayor, thank you. I just wanted to clarify that the conversations I had about this issue were with staff only. I didn't have any conversations with any contractors, but I thought they had this conversation with all the council members, but they called me and I came in and met with Jeff and Richard and everybody, and we had a long discussion about this. And so I understood the process of what they were trying to do, and the money they were trying to save on this. And we'll see how it goes. This may work.
Councilman Bonetto.
Just one last item. Thank you, Mayor. You know, I know, gosh, it was several months ago, maybe 6 months ago, where we've indicated that we've had some challenges. I know I had talked about challenges with procurement with regard to engineering. We had challenges with procurement with regard to engineering services, and now this has come up. And I know we're reevaluating the procurement department. Are we not?
Yes, we are.
Okay, so
Yeah.
so right now, obviously, we've got some challenges that we need to fix. We need to clean a lot of this stuff up, and you know, it's just very difficult from the side that we obviously. Erring on the side of getting the better deal doesn't always procure the best deal, because we really don't know what it's relative to. You know, once again, I could tell you, and I've been involved, like I said, in public procurement policies before, and where we've had 10 interested bidders and you only have 2 submit. And the reason being is because the procurement process, and I've said it before, if we have if we only have 1 or 2 bidders, and the common denominator is the procuring entity. So I know there's only 2 here. I know that I've talked to others, and like I said, that it's very difficult to do work. They had said that before, and like I said, I'm glad you're here, so that way you can fix it. I just I'm not convinced that our system's not flawed. That's just what I want to reiterate. So.
Thank you, Councilman. Okay. I don't see that we have any other questions or comments. So at this point, I will entertain a motion to approve consent item number 10. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed say no.
No.
Michael, I'm sorry.
Yes, ma'am, sorry. Aye.
Okay. Any opposed say no.
No.
The motion carries. Okay. Okay, so that takes care of the consent, our consent item. agenda and through 16. So all we have left, we're going to recess for lunch, and that will include our executive session item, and then the meeting will be adjourned. Isn't it?
The board appointment for the,
Oh, right, right. Oh, do we have that now, or do we?
Yeah, I would like to, I've been researching AG opinions in cases for the past, between comments, and there are not, unfortunately, are not any Attorney General opinions that apply the doctrine of incompatibility to Type A or Type B board members. Many other positions, but not Type A and Type B board members as, and the question is, are they officers to which the board, the incompatibility doctrine would apply? Are they also specifically a taxing entity because they merely receive the sales tax that is essentially is a municipal tax that's for economic development purposes. So there's a couple of issues that are going to be highly technical. We're going to need some time to research that to give you a solid answer. I would recommend not doing that particular appointment today.
Okay, Councilman Bonetta, you have a comment? Recommending no.
Mr. Hernandez may get a giggle out of this. I remember at one time or another, it was questionable of whether John Longoria could serve on the RTA board and the school board at the same time. And both put together a legal opinion of which he could, because two taxing entities, once again, in the same situation, one collects sales tax, and in the other, they basically collect ad valorem, just in the statement that you had made before. So instead of, there's a Tom Brady rule, I'll call this the John Longoria rule. But I'm not interested in withdrawing my motion. I'm not interested in withdrawing my motion. So I'd be willing to table them all. I'm sorry, gentlemen. But I'd be willing to table them until you come up with an opinion.
Table,
Table
The one-
the appointments,
all of them.
all of them.
Okay, Ms. Huerta, does that make any difference whatsoever? I'm not going to get into a big discussion for an hour on what we should do. Does it make a difference that we just vote on one or all of them? What is your suggestion?
For this,
I'm going to offer an amendment that may answer that question.
No, go ahead.
So on this?
What is your
so
suggestion? Do we do one or both, or all, or, table all, or
Two
vote on
of them, I mean, it seems like two are eligible, so you want to just, well, he's not going to change his motion. Why don't we just table all of them, if that's okay?
Let's table all
Can you
of it.
get an
Can you-
answer by the next
Can you
meeting?
do that, Mr. Bonetta?
Yeah, I'm
Would you
fine with
mind
that.
doing that?
I wouldn't mind
Okay,
tabling
go
it
ahead and
all.
amend it. And
I move to amend my motion to table it until our next meeting.
Okay, there was Mr. Molina already had a motion to table it, I guess, so.
Okay, so we have
Did he?
two motions to
Yeah.
table. Okay,
Okay.
same difference, isn't it?
So now we're just going to table the whole thing.
Yes.
So
Second?
do I need to amend?
I think you had the motion first. Yours is the same. So let's just go ahead and amend to table the whole thing, if that's okay?
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, do you want to second that since you,
Second.
okay. Any further discussion?
Yes, I'm going to offer an amendment to that. And my amendment would state that we go ahead and approve Scott Harris and Alan Wilson.
Okay, we just said we're going to table the whole thing, didn't we? Isn't that what we
They're
just talked about?
eligible.
So I don't understand why we're going back.
Point of order, can you give us a Robert's Rules of Order on the motion to table? I think you have to vote on it before doing an amendment, but can someone just give us the what that is?
I thought you just have to do the whatever. I'm going to let you answer it. I just feel like we're going in circles, and I'm going to stop the circling. Sorry, Mr. Scott and Will, you guys.
Alan Harris.
Allen and Harris, there you go.
Scott and Allen.
Scott, yeah.
Okay, so we have a motion to table on the floor and then an amendment. Those aren't amendable. A motion to table isn't amendable.
Okay. So So we have a motion, and we have a motion. It's all the same difference. There's one person in question. Any further discussion? All in favor, well, no word, yeah. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no.
No.
Okay, do you want to do a vote
Yes.
on the motion?
We're voting on just tabling the whole thing until we know exactly, which direction we should go in, opposed to pulling people, 2 people out, leaving one, voting on 2 and not 1, just all of them.
So a motion to table all the appointments, right, for A and B?
That was motion.
That was my motion, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so for passage of that motion, council members Plessley?
To table?
To table.
Yes, sir.
Aye.
Smith? Barrera?
Aye.
Hernandez?
No.
Hunter?
Aye.
Lerma?
No.
Martinez?
No.
Molina?
Aye.
And Mayor Guajardo?
Aye. Motion
Okay, that's
passes.
5. Yes, it does. It passes.
Okay, so we're tabling it. We love you guys. But we're tabling it just for simplicity, and then we will come back to it. We are going to recess for lunch. The council will go into executive session on item number 17 per Texas Government Code, Section 551.071.